What's good, IB Nation? Welcome to another edition of the Irish Breakdown Podcast. It's Friday. I got my man Trevor with me. I'm Vince, and we're here to answer your questions. It is a Friday Free-For-All Mailbag. I'm pumped. I'm excited. I'm back in the Eastern time zone, which has taken a little bit of time to get used to. Not going to lie. Being out on the West Coast for a few days. And that time difference kind of messes with you a little bit. For a while there, you're thinking, okay, well, it's 2 o'clock here. It's 5 o'clock at home, and it's weird. But we had a good family vacation. Everybody made it back, which is always a bonus. And now we're just trying to get back to normal life. And that's not as easy as it sounds. But Trev, I'm excited to be here with you, my man, to answer some questions. How you doing today, my man?
Good, man. Glad to see that you're back from vacation alive and in one piece. We've been holding the fort down here. I got excited. Brian was like, yeah, man, Vince is going to be doing shows with us in the summertime, and then you just go on vacation like that, bro.
I know, right? Just messing with you. That's I just love spending money. That's really what it is. So, it is what it is. But, Brian's out. He is rehabbing his throat a little bit. He's having some issues. And so we're just going to give him a couple days off here so he can get back into the swing of things starting on Monday and or whenever. And so I think that's the plan at the moment. And we'll see how it goes. But so sorry, you're stuck with Trevor and I. We will do our best to answer all of your questions. We got a bunch in the queue. And then there's also going to be a commitment announcement tonight as well, Trevor. Nick Reddish is announcing this evening, I believe. And so we will be here to talk about whatever his decision is later on this evening. So you can look forward to that. That's why you got to hit that notification bell, Trevor. It's important because you never know when there's going to be a random show. You just never know. So you got to have that notification bell clicked. So it's very important. All right.
Always is. Remember, put a little MB for mailbag on the side to let Vince and I know to set your question aside. And if you want yours bumped to the top, put in a super chat like our guy, John A1 did to get us kicked off today.
There we go. Thanks for the super chat, John. Appreciate you very much. Happy Friday, IB. Does Joe Rudolph get a pass in year 3 if the pass pro remains an issue in 25 because Jaguars got injured again?
No, he doesn't. Look, at the end of the day, the Jaguars injury hurts. But like we talked about earlier this week when we were covering the offensive line, we're talking about a guy that's played in 2.5 games and is yet to start a game at the position that he was slated to start in. It hurts. The ceiling of what this offensive line could be is still high. I don't know. Argument could be had if it's as high or not as high with or without him in the lineup. But look, the offensive line plays as a unit. As a unit. And Anthony Knapp needs to take a big jump in pass protection. Ashton Craig, in the moments we've seen him, has played fantastic. But again, he's slated most likely to be Notre Dame starting center again this fall. He started a total of 6 games, 3 at the end of 2023 and 3 at the start of 2024. He is yet to play in, he didn't play in the playoffs last season. He didn't play against Louisville last season, but kind of the experience under his belt is getting the start week 1 against Texas A&M down in College Station. And so, no, he definitely does not get a pass because one person gets injured who would have had the smallest sample size coming in amongst the starters. Emil Wagner needs to take a jump in consistent pass protection. Billy Schrouth needs to show that he can stay healthy. Then, of course, whoever steps in at right guard, in reality, is just going to have 2 less starts than what Charles Jagasaw had along the offensive line. And so, no, for me, he does not get a pass in year 3. What about you, Vince?
Yeah, I mean, look, we all know Charles Jagasaw is a very talented player, and this offensive line took a hit when he got hurt. I mean, there's no 2 ways about it. But this team has also been very successful without Charles Jagasaw on the offensive line. And so I don't think that you can give a team of 5 guys, you lose 1. Okay, so you lost 20% of your offensive line or your projected offensive line, one of which hasn't really played together a whole lot. There's that. And so actually, has this starting 5 offensive line played together at all? I don't think so.
They haven't even taken reps together in spring because Ashton Craig was still out.
So yes, we had it down on paper what the starting offensive line was going to be. And now that there's a reason you write it in pencil because sometimes you got to make an erasure. And this time last year, we had a starting offensive line of a certain 5 guys. And I think 2 of those guys got beat out and 1 of those guys got injured. So, nobody gets a pass here. We've talked ad nauseum about the talent level on the inside of the offensive line, guard, center guard, right? And how much talent there is and the depth there and all that. Well, time to see it. And so, no, this is a developmental situation for Joe Rudolph. He's had these guys as long as they've been there. He's the one that has developed them. Now we see what happens. I don't think there's a pass to be given here at all.
Well, let's play this out realistically, Vince. Let's say, for this instance, Jagasaw doesn't make it back for the regular season. Is Anthony Knapp or is Ashton Craig or Billy Schrouther or Emil Wagner going to get a pass if their pass progression doesn't take the next step if Charles Jagasaw isn't in the lineup?
Right.
Let's just say, theoretically, one of the scenarios that we played out on Monday when we talked about this was Sullivan Absher is kind of the logical fit to just step right in, first rep in fall camp, and say, all right, Sully, it's time to go out there and see what you can do with the first team at one position, ideally. And the minute he steps foot on that field against Miami, barring everybody else is healthy, he will have had more time amongst that starting group than what Charles Jagasaw would have had. And so that's the weird dynamic of this room right now. But pass protection not only should, but has to take a next step this upcoming season with or without the people in the starting lineup, because Joe Rudolph is going into year 3. It means Anthony Knapp is going on year 2 with him. Sullivan Absher is going on year 3 with him. Ashton Craig's going on year 3 with him. Billy Schrouther is going on year 3 with him. Emil Wagner is going on year 3 with him. It's time to see that jump. Now, if the same amount of injuries happen along the offensive line as they did last year, and you're just having to, replace and reload every 3 weeks, we can have that discussion when that time comes.
Yeah.
But just one person, absolutely not.
That's a really good point. That's a really good point. Like we can hold the jury if the same thing happens last year or this year that happens last year. I think that's a fair statement. But just one guy doesn't make this statement true. It's a great question because Jagasaw is arguably the most talented offensive lineman on the team, and he got hurt again, and so that's tough. But you know what? The reality is, it sounds like he could be back the beginning of October. You know what I mean? Or at least that's the rumor, right? So I'm not holding my breath on that. Just because he's back practicing doesn't mean he's at 100%, with the push and all of the different things that you have to do as an offensive lineman. And what he's good at is overpowering guys and using his muscle and his drive and all of those things, right? So, there's no telling as to how healthy he's going to be when he does come back, if and when he does. And he was practicing a bunch last year, and we didn't even know it because we're not there. That's the other thing. We won't know when he comes back because we're not at practice. And unless Marcus Freeman decides that he's going to fill us in on all that, we won't even really know. So it's going to be interesting. To the question, one guy does not give the excuse card. 2 guys, 3 guys, then let's have a conversation. 1 guy, no. So there you go. Good question, John. Thanks for the super chat, by the way. Salty Virginia Peanuts. What kind or level of pressure does Ryan Day have to beat Michigan, given both the 4-year drought and last season's national championship?
I mean, I don't know if you want us to put a gauge or like a number on the level or what kind of pressure, but it is weird to think that in the last 4-year span, he's won a national title before he's beaten Michigan.
That's wild.
I think that's an interesting way to look at it. But I mean, once a head coach wins a national championship, I would say for the most part, there's a good amount of pressure that's kind of off of your shoulders. Because at the end of the day, that's the ultimate goal. Now, Ohio State fans might think differently because I get it. It's a rivalry game. Marcus Freeman said it in his interview with Joel Klatt. You kind of don't care what your records are. You don't care what it is heading into the game. If you beat your rival, you deem it as a successful season. I'm willing to bet that the majority of Ohio State fans, Archer, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I'm sure Ohio State fans were okay, not okay, but winning a national championship kind of cushioned the blow of losing to Michigan just a little bit. If Notre Dame would have lost to USC last year in the last week of the regular season, but then went on to win the national championship, I, as a fan, putting the fan hat on for a second, am willing to kind of look past them losing to USC in the final week of the regular season if it brought them their 12th national championship. Could be me, could be an unpopular opinion, but I would say the level of pressure is relatively moderate amongst fans. I don't think people internally in Ohio State's, back office is like, hey, Ryan, I know you just brought us a ring, but if you don't beat Michigan this year, we're going to have some conversations. I don't think that it'll be that way. Plus, in the last 4 years, I couldn't tell you if they will or will not beat Michigan, because on paper, they should have beaten them the last 4 years, and they haven't. So that is up for debate. But I would say moderate level pressure, but I would say most of it's going to be coming externally from the program. It's going to be fans. It's going to be whoever.
There's always going to be pressure for Ryan Day to beat Michigan because he hasn't done it yet. There's always going to be pressure. Look, Michigan had 6 wins going into the Ohio State game last year, and obviously they ended up winning to win their 7th, and then they go beat Alabama in the – now, granted, it was a bowl game, and there's a bunch of guys sitting out and all of those different things. I get it. But if you're Michigan and you finish off your season beating Ohio State and beating Alabama, you're going into a pretty decent offseason, even though you didn't have a ton of success. They had 5 losses. Michigan should never have 5 losses, right? And so it did save their season. You completely flip it on the other end, and Ohio State loses to Michigan and they win the national championship. Look, on the outside, as far as like national media is concerned, they don't give a crap that Ohio State lost to Michigan. They won the national title. At the end of the day, that's what matters. The only people, I shouldn't say the only people, a good majority of the people that care that Ohio State lost to Michigan in the year that they won the national championship are Michigan fans. They will always, Ohio State will always say, oh, we won the national championship in 2024. And Michigan say, yeah, well, we beat you. Those are the only people that are going to say that. Nobody else is going to say that. And so, look, the week leading up to the Michigan-Ohio State game, people are really going to care if Ohio State loses to Michigan. They're really going to care. But if they go out and win another national title, they're not going to care anymore. So, yes, it's important to beat your rival. I don't buy into the fact that beating your rival makes your season. For the most part, like if you're going into that game with like 3 wins and you beat your rival, it feels great on that day. And you've got bragging rights for a year, but you're not bragging about the other 9 teams you lost to. You know what I mean? So go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, look, I think in the previous years before there was the expanded playoff, I think that loss meant a little bit more because whoever won or lost that game, especially under the Harbaugh tenure at Michigan, kind of dictated who was going to make it to the Big Ten championship game and then who was likely going to make the 14 playoff. We've seen it. Ohio State lost to a 6-win team in the regular season at home in the last week of the regular season and still hosted a home playoff game. I think it's just going to be – I think with the expanded playoff, it's not going to weigh as heavy. You obviously want to beat your rival, especially when we're talking about Ohio State, Michigan. But now that it's not hanging in the balance of making the playoffs or not, now there could come a year where, let's say, Michigan's a top 25 team and Ohio State's on the cusp and they need that win over Michigan to boost their resume to get into the playoffs as like an 11 or 10 seed, and they lose, then yeah, sure, maybe. But I don't see that. I don't see Ohio State being in that boat this year. And so with the expanded playoffs, I think the loss means yes.
Our resident Ohio State fan, Archer, chimed in. He goes, list of priorities: win the national title, beat Michigan, win the Big Ten, in that order. Okay, I get that. I'm actually very okay with that, because there are some delusional Ohio State fans, though, and Michigan fans that would put beat your rival ahead of a national title, which is ridiculous. But they would, no doubt about it. Trevor, let me ask you this: Notre Dame has had a lot of success against USC. Does beating USC make the season for you?
No, it doesn't. I mean, especially with the recent success that they've had. I mean, if Notre Dame is at a year where they're 6-6,
right?
and there's just no hope of them making the playoffs, then yeah, the next area of focus is beating USC. But like, let's just say for this year, let's say Notre Dame's undefeated going into October 18th. And they lose to USC in what could potentially be the last regular season game slated for a while. Would that sting? Yeah. Would I hate it? Absolutely. Would I be happy on the postgame show afterwards? Not a chance.
Nope.
If they go and win the national championship on January 19th of 2026, am I going to care that they lost to USC? No. You know how I know that? I watched them lose to Northern Illinois and make it to the national championship game and not even win it, and I didn't care about the Northern Illinois loss.
Correct.
And so no. Big picture, no. But some of it depends on the season that Notre Dame is having. I don't view them going 6-6 for quite some time, if ever again. I mean, odds are that maybe. But no. With the trajectory that this program is on, I will never hold a USC win over a title run.
I will say this, though. This year's USC game, since currently on July 11th, we don't have another USC game on the schedule, it adds a little bit more importance to this year. I do want to win that game in case there isn't one coming in the near future, just like Notre Dame lost to Michigan the last time they played them. And that stings. Like, I don't like that. I mean, I don't. I hate Michigan. I don't like the fact that the last game was a Notre Dame loss, but I still sleep very well at night. So I'll be okay. But it does add a little bit of pressure this year for the USC game. I'll just say that. And
Agreed.
I would like them to remember the butt whooping that they will receive in South Bend by Notre Dame against the Trojans. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, that's a great question, though. I do like that question because the Michigan-Ohio State rivalry is just different than a lot of other rivalries, and I totally get that. And I don't feel it, so it's hard for me to like understand what they feel. So
sure,
yeah.
I don't feel it, but I understand it. That's how big of a rivalry it is. Like whoever wins or loses that game has zero impact on my day.
Zero.
But I understand the magnitude of it.
Right.
And that's what makes it such a big rivalry. I get it.
Josh Buffalo, the motivational business banker. Marcus Freeman, Lou Holtz, Urban Meyer, Barry Alvarez, Charlie Weiss. These head coaches are coaching both sides of the ball. What positions are they coaching, and who is your head coach?
I'd put Lou Holtz as the head coach.
I would too.
I mean, I don't really have like a full staff here, so I'd go, let's say Barry Alvarez is the DC, Marcus Freeman's the linebackers coach, Charlie Weiss is the OC, and Urban Meyer is the wide receivers coach.
Yes, he coached wide receivers at Notre Dame, so that works. Yeah, I think you can make a case for that. I would definitely have Lou Holtz as my head coach. I think he's the most motivational of all of these guys. Look, Marcus Freeman could end up being that guy by the end of his career, but at this point, I'm willing to give that mantle to Lou Holtz. And I think Marcus Freeman would do the same thing. So Barry Alvarez was a DC before my time. I know Marcus Freeman as a DC, so I would be tempted to flip-flop those, but I totally get where you're coming from, and it's not something I'm willing to, plant my flag on and die for. And the same thing with the Urban Meyer, Charlie Weiss situation. I could make Charlie Weiss my quarterback's coach and Urban Meyer my offensive coordinator, because I think Urban Meyer is more of a college OC as opposed to Chuck. So maybe I go that direction, but other than that, I don't really have an argument with the way you put them. That would be one hell of a staff, though.
Sure would. Yeah, no, absolutely. That's to your point, though. That's why I went with Barry Alvarez as DC, because I was like, I don't know if he had a specialty,
right?
Like, I don't know if he was like DC and was good. I'm sure people in the chat know. So if you are in the chat, did Barry Alvarez kind of have like a niche when he was coaching defense, like how Al Golden was the defensive coordinator, but he like really hung in with the linebackers. Nick Saban, obviously he was the head coach, but he was really dialed in with the DBs. Do you guys know? So if you could put that in the chat, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, right. I just know Barry Alvarez as the DC, and then obviously as a head coach after that. Yeah. Brandon Gilbert. I'm assuming you guys are playing CFB 26. What changes, if any, have you made? I might have to leave this to the young guy because I'll go first on this one. I have 25. I have no plans on buying 26. That is an expense that will not be allowed in my house, considering I bought the PlayStation last year and the game and an extra controller. So like that was a monumental purchase on my end, at least for me from a video game standpoint, since I'm 44 years old. So I know, and I shouldn't even say that because age is really irrelevant when it comes to video games these days. But yeah, I'm sticking with 25 for now. This will show you how much I know about video games and how things work. I know they update the rosters. I was really hoping they would update like the 26 rosters on my 25. It's probably not going to happen, but that would be awesome. And then I could just keep playing the same game. But yeah, I will be sticking with 25 for the near future.
Fair enough. Yeah, I kind of made I guess I don't want to call it a loophole, but I'm not a big like birthday guy. My birthday was back in May, and Lauren was like, "What do you want? What do you want?" And I was like, "Oh, I don't know, just nothing. Let's just hang out today." And so I bought NCAA 26, but like the deluxe version, so I can play it 3 days early.
Woohoo!
And so I was like, "It's my birthday gift." Like, I'm just gonna have to wait till July every year to get it. But no, Brandon, what changes have I made? None yet. I mean, I started a dynasty, and like there's just some players that haven't opted in, so I've gone in and like changed their names. You can do that with like the stock names that they give you. You can't do it with like the players who like opted in. You can't change their stats or hometown or height and weight, but you can with like the generic players that they loaded in. So I've changed some of that. And then I've said it before on this show, but I'm a big like cosmetic guy when it comes to the games. Like I want it to look as much of the real team as possible. And it bothers me that they gave Jadarian Price like Xavier Watts dreads again in the game because they did it in 25. So it is what it is. But the Road to Glory mode is fun because you start out in high school. And so then you have to like work your way up as a recruit. You have to pick like your top 10 schools. So that's a lot of fun. Vince, in your defense, though, I know you said you're 44, but like, look, man, NCAA was coming out in your video game prime, and now it's back. So really,
that's why I went all in last year.
That's what I'm saying.
That's why I went all in. I mean, I was fired up. I was excited. I got my son excited about it because he's never had it, really. You know what I mean? And so we might have to figure out a way so that he and I can play while he's at school. Like that may have to be a thing. But I know you got to like pay to play online and all this other stuff, and that's just more money, baby. So I don't know. We'll have to see how that goes. The one gripe I had about 25, and I don't know if it's the same thing in 26, is you can't take a created team and do a dynasty with it. That bothers me. I can't do that.
I don't know if you can do it for 26. I haven't tried that yet.
Yeah, that bothers me. But, what can you do?
If so, you got to make Hillsdale, and then Dylan's just going to set every kicking record.
That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. The Chargers are going to be on there,
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
From MoBD88, I apologize if I butchered
it's
your name.
Muhammad Abdi.
Oh, there we go. Thanks, Muhammad. All right, Brian. Well, why did Notre Dame target portal wide receiver? Why did ND target portal wide receivers? Was Williams overhyped? Why is he not projected as a starter like Carr coming into his redshirt freshman year?
Cam Williams has a lot more in front of him. I don't lose too much sleep over the development of wide receiver at that level. Look, Brian has said multiple times, and I even remember like around the time of his commitment when I was still just listening to the show, Cam Williams has all the physical tools to be of an elite wide receiver at this level, especially at Notre Dame with his skill set. But he was very raw technically coming out of high school. He just wasn't asked to do a whole lot because his God-given ability was just that much higher than the competition that he was facing. Not that he was facing horrible competition, but I mean, he got a full ride scholarship to go to Notre Dame. He was a 4-star recruit. I think Irish Breakdown graded him with like a 5-star upside grade. But he's going into his redshirt freshman year. I don't think that it's I don't think we label Cam Williams as somebody who's overhyped because he just hasn't taken that jump. I would be a little bit more interested in that if the other members of his class took that step. Like if Micah Gilbert just comes and bursts onto the scene this year and is in like the team's 4th leading receiver, and Logan Saldate's beating him out for reps, but that's just not the case. There's a loaded room in front of him. What I see Cam Williams' role on the team this year is, he comes in kind of that niche role, and he's able to stretch the field. Maybe he ends the season with, 15 to 20 catches for, 300-400 yards, averages like 17 something yards per catch, and maybe has a couple of touchdowns. But because he hasn't forced his way into the starting lineup, I'm not ready to label him overhyped. Quarterback, it's just a different animal. I mean, CJ Carr came in as the best talent in the room. Mm-hmm. He had the highest ceiling in the room the second he stepped foot on campus. And so that's tough to compare when, CJ, when Notre Dame elected to not go to the portal for a quarterback this upcoming season, he had 2 guys to beat out, whereas Cam Williams currently is sitting behind Malachi Fields, who's very experienced, Will Pauling, who's very experienced, Jaden Greathouse, who broke out in the playoffs, Jordan Faison, who we found out when we were doing our wide receiver show. There's some people that will sit down and thoroughly have a debate with you who they'll take, Jordan Faison or Jaden Greathouse. So there's just a lot of room in front of him. I think he got some really valuable experience this spring with Malachi Fields and Micah Gilbert both out, but I'm not ready to label him overhyped yet. He's a redshirt freshman.
Yeah. He's not every guy who is a top-rated player has to come in and contribute right away. I know there was some stumbling blocks for Cam when he got here, and he's working through it, and we'll see what happens this year. I mean, he is in the battle to be in the top 6 and be in the rotation and all of that. I just don't think that he's been able to show enough that they were willing to count on him being a starter in 25. This is his opportunity to show the staff that he could be a starter in 26. So that's the way I look at it. I'm not counting him out or anything of that nature. It's just everybody develops at a different pace. It doesn't matter necessarily. Like in high school, if I remember correctly, in high school, he was just out athleting everybody, right? There was a lot of nuances to the game that he had to learn when he came to Notre Dame, whether it was route running, whether it was understanding the playbook, whether it was academics. I don't know, but I know that there was some nuances that he had to take care of and he had to learn. And I think that's still the case. Now, he has accomplished a lot of that already, and we'll see, what that means for 25 and then ultimately what that means for 26 and beyond. That's the thing. And they were able to go to the portal and bring in some guys that are going to be able to help them right now. That's the glory of the portal. That's why the portal is such a great thing to have, the way Notre Dame uses it, because if they have a hole, they can fill it. They're not building their team around the portal. Okay. So it gives some guys that maybe are developing at a different pace a chance to develop, and they don't have to force them into action before they're ready. And I think that's really important. And you don't want to throw a guy like Cam Williams into the mix before he's ready, because then that stunts his development and stunts his growth and all of those different things, for the rest of his career. Let's be patient, see what he's got this year, and then hopefully he could be that breakout player in 26. That's my goal for Cam Williams.
Well, and you also don't have to be a starting wide receiver to make an impact in the starting lineup. Now, I'm not saying he's going to replicate this player's stats, but look at Omar Cooper Jr. from Indiana last season. He only started 4 out of their 13 games last year, was a rotational guy, and he was their second leading receiver last year with a very similar stat line to what Cam Williams could have. He had 594 receiving yards off of 28 receptions. He was a legitimate downfield threat. He averaged 21.2 yards per catch, finished the year with 7 touchdowns. He started 4 games. So it doesn't have to be, I get it. 5-star talent, you want to come in right away because you hear the stories of the Jeremiah Smiths and the Ryan Williams. I love Cam Williams as a talent, as a prospect, and I think that he's going to have a good career at Notre Dame. He's not Jeremiah Smith, and that's not a knock on Cam Williams. Jeremiah Smith is the best wide receiver in college football this year. And so you can't compare both. And so that's kind of the point that I'm getting at. But He's definitely not overhyped. Definitely not overhyped.
Right. Just give him a chance. Just give him a second, and he'll be fine. I'm not writing him off yet, man. I'm not ready to do that by any stretch. Domer Grizz, happy Friday. Even if no one transfers out after 25, what position groups might still need the transfer portal to address potential holes for the 26 season. Domer, you're killing me, Smalls. We haven't even started the 25 season yet. All right. I think you're always going to find potential on the defensive line. I don't like if there's somebody that's available, you take them. Like that's just how the defensive line is. And I think that would be true anytime, like any season, because you rotate guys so much. I mean, you could play up to 12 guys essentially on the defensive line. So is everybody 12 deep on the defensive line? I would say probably not. And so if there's somebody out there that can make you better, you go get them. So defensive line would be one for me. That's the first one that jumps out at me. What do you think?
That's tough. I'm kind of going through and I'm thinking, I was looking at their roster and I'm going through and thinking, what positions will they not for sure need to take a transfer portal player?
Right.
Running back, linebacker, corner, safety, O-line, quarterback. And even then, you never know what shakes up. I mean, you could want to bring in like some, veteran player for depth or experience or whatever. Who knows?
Right.
Like let's just say odds are whoever wins the starting job this year, whether it's CJ or Kenny, the other person will likely not be on the team in 2026. I'm not naive to that fact.
That's very fair.
I don't like predicting who's going to transfer and who isn't, but just looking at the facts,
Mark,
you're
absolutely right. This is a layup. It is kicker. There is a definite chance that they go get a kicker.
Potentially. Depends on what happens with Eric Schmidt.
Right.
Depends on what happens with him. But, quarterback maybe, because if you look at the room, let's just say CJ wins the job. Kenny's going to want to go somewhere and start. It's going to be very difficult, barring injury, for him to beat out CJ Carr after he starts for 15 games in a season. Or the vice versa. It's going to be very hard for CJ to come back in and beat out Kenny after Kenny has 15 games of experience. So let's just say one of them leaves. Your backup quarterback is now a redshirt freshman in Blake Hebert. They might want to bring in some, group of 5 vet who has aspirations of being a coach one day, who can get him out of a game in a pinch. Who knows? But quarterback, maybe. But I start to think about, we just got done talking about the receiving core. Depends on the jumps they make this year. If another Malachi Fields comes along in the portal,
right,
I would have to think that they take a look at him.
100%.
Along the defensive line, you're losing Jordan Patello, Gabe Rubio, Jason Onye, Jared Dawson. And those are just the ones that I remember off the top of my head. So depends. Depends on how they close out this class.
Mm-hmm.
But then how much you want to rely on a bunch of true freshmen. Last year's class, how much of a step do they take? Christopher Burgess, Dom Hulak, Davian Dixon, guys like that. I know Elijah Hughes will be going into, I believe, his last year of eligibility. And that's if they don't redshirt him this year. And so it's up in the air, but I would say defensive line maybe. And then tight end potentially, depending on how Cooper Flanagan comes back and recovers from his injury. Because you're for sure losing Eli Raridan after this year, and you're for sure losing Kevin Bauman after this year. Then I think the staff kind of has some questions on mind, because depending on how Cooper Flanagan comes back, they may redshirt him this year if he's just not healthy to return, or he'll come back and play. Who knows? And then you'll have Jack Larson. Ty Washington will be back for his last year. James Flanagan will either be going into his redshirt freshman or sophomore year. Since I'm a betting man, I'm willing to bet that it's probably going to be his sophomore year, eligibility-wise, not redshirt freshman. Couple of walk-ons. I think Henry Garrity will be back. Justin Fisher might be back too. And then if this class closes out the way that we think, you'll have Ian Premer and Preston Frizzell. So tight end maybe, depending on what that room looks like and if they're able to stay healthy this year. So, yeah, I mean, it's really early to tell.
Yeah.
But I would say initially it depends on how big of a jump the wide receivers take, how healthy the tight ends stay, and how much of the young guys are going to make an impact in the rotation on the defensive line. But outside of that, I think they're good. I think next season will be the first year that they don't go to the portal for a nickel cornerback. They've done that 3 years in a row. But if Ben Minnick continues to evolve, if they keep repping Carson Hobbs at multiple different places, and Dallas Golden said that his preferred spot in the defense was nickel. And so between those three, I think you'll find a starting nickel corner so they won't have to go to the portal. That's just me, though.
There you go. And like you said, a lot can change a year from now. You know what I mean? So it'll be very interesting. Very interesting.
Sure will.
Salty Virginia Peanuts. Which team will make the playoffs? Higher ranked than others if they also qualify? Tennessee, USC, Florida State, or Kansas State?
Ooh.
So which one is more likely to make it out of these four?
I mean, if I'm going to rank them in what I think is the most likely,
K-State's got to be number one, right?
K-State would be one. Big 12 is the Wild West. You just never know what's going to happen there.
Agreed.
After that, gosh.
I mean, you're asking a lot for Florida State to be win the ACC after last year.
I'll go Kansas State, USC, Tennessee, then Florida State.
I would flip-flop USC and Tennessee, but the problem with Tennessee is I don't know that they have a lot of faith in their quarterback, so maybe that drops them below USC.
Well, I mean, here's the thing, and part of my thought process with Florida State is I think there's going to be very few teams that just get not automatic bids, at-large bids out of the ACC. So I think a lot of those are going to be eaten up by Big Ten and SEC.
Sure. And
so then I start thinking about, okay, USC kind of has that in their favor, and I am one of the people that thinks that USC is going to be better this year. Tennessee, it comes down to what happened. Like, what is your resolve after the Nico situation? Did that divide the locker room with NIL? Is he the only player in the building that's going on with? Does it galvanize the team, and are they able to rally behind the kid coming in from App State? Or is that going to be like that on top of the talent that they lost from last season? Is that going to be too much for them to overcome? And so Tennessee, I'm back and forth on. Florida State, I'm only putting last because they're the one team on here that I can't even predict what their season's going to be. Couldn't even tell you. You go from 13-1 to 10-2. I've never seen anything like that. Vince, I want to get your thought on this.
Okay.
We were talking about this in the show. I think we were doing the buy, sell, hold. And what was more shocking to you, Indiana's rise or the steep fall of Florida State?
Ooh, man, that's a great question. You know what? The more surprising thing to me was IU. Okay. And here's why. I am a pretty firm believer in that you can't sustain a program with the primary use of the portal. And that's what Florida State has been doing. And we have yet to see any program have sustained success by going to the portal for 40 players, 40, 50, half the roster, basically. We haven't seen it, right? You see the rise of USC, then you see them fall. You see Florida State, then you see them fall. It hasn't been proven to me yet. So until that happens, I am just not a believer that you can build your program like that. So a program that is reliant on the portal like that is one that I'm not going to believe in long-term, which is why I'm not believing in IU in year 2 of Kurt Cignetti.
Okay. Because
of the portal, my portal theory, right? We'll see how they do, but it was kind of a perfect storm for IU last year. They had a ridiculously easy schedule. They had a coach that gets everybody fired up. He's obviously a guy that people can get behind, Google him and all that stuff, right? And he brought in a lot of guys with a lot of experience from his last stop. That's the key that I think people forget too. He didn't just bring in a bunch of randos. He brought in guys that had experience in his program and all of those different things, and I think it paid off. Can he sustain that success? Because he did go use the portal an awful lot this year as well. So what is that going to look like in year 2? I think they take a step back. And again, maybe they're going to be the team that disproves my theory. But at the moment, I'm going to stick with my theory. And I will say that IU surprised me because I didn't think Florida State could sustain it. And then fast forward to this year, I don't think IU is going to be able to sustain it. I'm not saying they're going to win 3 games. I'm saying they're not going to be in CFP playoff contention at the end of the year. And if I'm wrong, I'll eat my words. I have no problem with that. You and I are literally surrounded by IU fans. They all came out of the woodwork last year, when they were going to play Notre Dame and all of these different things, and they got humbled. And so we'll see how loud they are this year coming in. But they got a tough schedule this year, Trevor, and we'll see if they can sustain it this year.
I don't disagree with that take. We said in the show on Wednesday, our surprise was Florida State because there is a world where I can justify what happened with Indiana. To all of your points about Group of Five All-Star team, they had the coach behind them. Like I can see a world where you put that together and you have a good season. I did not see playoff. Sure did.
Oh, yeah.
I would be a bold-faced liar if I was sitting here in this job preseason looking at this team. I would not have said, yeah, I think they're going to win a playoff game, let alone make it to the playoffs. But I would have put my chips on the table that they were going to be improved. I don't think they were going to end last year 3-9. Where we landed on with Florida State is there's nothing that you could have predicted preseason for them to go 2-10. Because I can't confidently sit where I'm sitting and say, I think the team's just going to quit. You know what I mean? Like, that's why the downfall was so crazy, is because you could just see it on the field. Players would just give up. They go down a couple scores, it's done. Game's mentally over, and it's the second quarter. And so that's why we said Florida State, because it is that power program. Like, it is Florida State. They did just win the ACC. They did just go 13-1. That's what's crazy. But to your point, Vince, about Indiana, I agree with you that I think big picture they take a step back in terms of overall record. I think when you watch the team, they're still going to be a good football team. But I said in that show that IU's grade to me is just a little incomplete because their sample size is so weird. Their 2 losses last year were to the 2 teams that played in the national championship. But then all of their wins were against inferior opponents. And I understand the argument, but it's IU. Yes, I get that. But it wasn't 2023 IU that beat those teams. It was this version of IU that did make the playoffs. That did. And so, this year they're on the road against Iowa. They're on the road against Oregon. They're on the road against Penn State. They're home against Wisconsin. They're home against Illinois. They're home against Michigan State, who is poised to have a better year. So we're going to find out relatively quickly. I mean, they play Illinois at home and Iowa on the road before September's over. So we're not going to have to wait that long to find out what IU's about this year. But I think big picture, they will take a step back in that I don't see them going 11-1. But I think when you watch them, it's like, yeah, that's the same team that we watched lose to Ohio State and lose to Notre Dame, but then also beat, who did they beat last year? Beat Washington and beat Nebraska. I don't know if they'd beat Nebraska by the same margin again this year, but you get what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, I think product on the field is going to look the same. I don't think they're going to look like a bad football team. I just think organically they're going to have more than one loss because of their schedule.
Agreed. Broke neck boy. Notre Dame's predicted record against blue blood teams since you started watching. If they constantly played each other.
I mean, since I started watching?
I mean, we're talking about going back about 30 years, my man. I don't know. Like, I don't even know what their schedule against blue blood teams is at right now. But I mean, is this question basically getting to the fact that Notre Dame has an easy schedule? Is that what this is insinuating?
No, I think it's just, so what are the blue blood teams then? I mean, you got Texas, Notre Dame, USC, Alabama, Ohio State. What are the other blue blood teams? I'm blanking. I mean, I guess Nebraska.
Did you say Georgia? I shouldn't assume you did.
Georgia, probably. I mean, look, here's the thing. What the sample size has told us, if they played Ohio State every year, based on recent history, that outcome would not fare well for Notre Dame. Notre Dame hasn't beaten Ohio State in my lifetime. They lost in 2005, they lost in 2015, they lost in 22, 23, and 24. So I don't know what the record would be. Odds are they'll get a win in there at some point, because I don't see them going 0 from 05 to, for the rest of my life if they played consistently every year. But I have no proof that they will beat Ohio State as of right now since I've been alive. So gosh, dude, that's a tough question. Like, I don't know if I could put a number on it. I don't know. Texas, Oklahoma. I mean, it depends. And then are they playing Texas in like the years that Texas was not good?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's tough. I couldn't even tell you.
I mean, look, you could ask this question about any of the quote unquote blue blood teams, and if you go 500 against all the blue blood teams, I think that's pretty solid, to be honest with you. And you're talking about times when teams are up, teams are down. You know, over the last 30 years, as I've been watching Notre Dame, I mean, they've been good, they've been bad, they've been in the middle. You know, if they're playing the best teams in the country every single year, some years you're going to be really good. Some years you're going to take it on the chin.
Yeah.
And so I would say if you go 500 again, like let's say you loaded up your schedule with 12 blue bloods every year, dude, you're going to be lucky to go 500 on average. You know, there'll be years where you win 10 games and your team's really, really good. And there's going to be years where you lose 10 games because you're not that good. And the blue blood teams are. So I think over a stretch of 30 years, if you're talking about playing blue bloods, if you're 500 or over 500, I think you're doing pretty darn good.
Yeah.
That's
Agreed.
where I'm at.
Toons has put his prediction in the chat.
That's fantastic. 765-2 for those listening on the podcast. Yeah.
That's great.
Josh Buffo, the motivational business banker. Was Terrion Folston the greatest missed opportunity in Notre Dame history due to injury? If not, who do you think was?
In history? Gosh.
Man. This is where we need Brian.
Yeah, I know. He's up there. He's up there for sure. We've talked about him on this show before. I mean, I think Jarrett Grace is very much in that conversation. Him starting alongside Manti in 2012 would have been spectacular. I know Brian has in the past, he's been very high on Dan McCarthy. Said if it wasn't for his injury history when he was at Notre Dame, he would have been a fantastic safety. Trying to think of just other injury riddled. I mean, in history, I can't tell you. Like my knowledge of this Notre Dame program prior to 2005,
Malik Zaire is a good one.
Yeah, Malik is a good one. I don't know how much of a difference it would have made big picture, but Raymond McKnight in 05, you know, if he doesn't get hurt against Michigan in week 2, you know, does that make a difference in the USC game? Does that make a difference in the Michigan State game? Trying to think of others.
Chagasaw is actually a pretty good one too by Salty.
Man,
I mean, we've been talking about him for 3 years, it feels like, and he's played in like 3 or 4 games. So
yeah. Malik Zaire is one. It wasn't an injury, but I mean, if he didn't get suspended in 2013, I always wondered what would have happened to Everett Golson. Like if he got that year of development and we got basically 2014 version of Everett Golson in 2013 and he came back for 14. That's one I think about quite a bit. But outside of that, I don't know. Terrion Folston right now probably is up there. Anybody else come to your mind, Vince?
No, not really. I'm terrible with this kind of stuff. I'd be honest with you. Indy Milton Fed says Tyler Buckner. That's
what?
That's not bad. That's not bad because, and you could even go back to, you know, his injury in high school, kind of derailing things a little bit because he got and then COVID. So like he lost the season due to injury. He lost the season due to COVID. And then he comes to Notre Dame and changes his throwing style. So like, that's actually not a bad one.
Dane Christ. Some of that was also quarterback development because his quarterback coach at the time was not good. But
agreed. His
injury, his knee injury. Who knows? Ooh, PJC 1122 had another good one. Sean Crawford. I mean, that cat was starting for Notre Dame he was tearing ACLs. He tore his Achilles. That's another one. Here we go.
All right. Irish Gordian Knot, what's your favorite splurge meal or type of food? Like your go-to food for big life moments, promotions, etc. I mean, taking my whole family out to eat is like a splurge. So depends on, you know, that's a splurge. You know, if I'm just going out with my wife or something like that, we're not really like foodies. Like if we go to a place that is real expensive, the food gets weird, in my opinion. So like I'm good with going to a place that just has like a good steak, steak and potatoes kind of thing. My wife's a steak and potatoes girl. We do something like that, like a Ruth Chris or something along those lines. I think we've been there like once in our entire lives because that place is really expensive. My favorite food, though, and it probably shows with my physique, would be fettuccine Alfredo, and you can throw anything in there that you want.
Okay.
We could do like a seafood Alfredo. We could do a chicken. We can do whatever. But that's kind of my go-to as well.
Yeah, my go-to is steak for a splurge meal or anything like that. Yeah, it's definitely steak. I am definitely a foodie, as you can also tell probably by my physique. So I'm steak as well, for sure. Love a good steak.
And I will say, let's see, Jason says he goes to hibachi or a steakhouse. Hanayori in town, it's very, very good. They do the, the little, thing in front of you and all that kind of stuff. We went there for Brian's birthday one time. Nice. So that was a lot of fun. We do like a little hibachi action. I like dinner and a show, get your money's worth. So big fan of that as well.
Love it.
All right. From Mark, do you see G6 schools mounting a successful lawsuit leading to requiring some sort of compensation from Power 4 schools who take in their developed players in the portal? Nope. That's called supply and demand. Like, that's just the way it goes. And before the G6, this is all my opinion. I am not a lawyer. I don't know anything about a lawsuit. This is how I see things trending. Before anything like that happens, Mark, I do believe that the Power 4 will break off and do their own thing, and then the G6 will be left to do their own thing. That's how I see that going. They're not going to pay for that in any way, because how can you blame a player who, let's say, starts out in the MAC, for example, and let's say they go to Ball State and they ball out, and then all of a sudden Ohio State comes calling. How do you say no to that? I mean, they're going to go. Just like, D1 to D1, they're going to go. If you're not playing at one D1 and another D1 says we want you to start, they're going to go. It's the same situation. The kicker from Ball State is now the kicker at Ohio State.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how you're going to tell that kid, nah, man, you need to stay, or that Ohio State needs to compensate Ball State for taking their player? If you're going to compensate G6 schools, why are you not compensating D1, P4 schools? What's the difference? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that was going to be where do you draw the line?
Right.
I mean, USC has a running back that they got out of the portal from Hutchinson Community College. Is USC going to pay a community college? Look, it's a good question, Mark. It's a valid question because I understand the premise that it's coming from. But look, at the end of the day, it's the player's decision ultimately to put their name into the portal. Now, a lot of, especially bigger name players, kind of have an idea of where they're going before they officially put their names in. But look, I mean, at one point, in the first day that the winter portal was open, over like 2,000 players jumped in the portal. It's a lot of transactions to keep track of.
Yeah, man.
Of who, and then you have there's just a bunch of these players on Notre Dame's opponent schedules, let alone across the country. What do you do if you transfer in the winter portal? Let's say that Ball State kicker transfers to Ohio State in the spring. Then after spring, he transfers to a different school.
Right.
What is the transaction chain there? It gets way too messy. It's the player's decision ultimately. Where I do think that you're going to see some sort of compensation or switch. I don't know if you're going to, but if a player has, transfers to a school under the notion that they're going to get some sort of NIL deal and they don't fulfill their end of the deal before transferring again, maybe something could be up for compensation there. But I don't think it's going to be up to the schools, because at the end of the day, transferring is up to the decision of the player. Steve Angeli transferred to Syracuse. He had the option to stay at Notre Dame. Notre Dame then shouldn't, or Syracuse then shouldn't pay Notre Dame because they got Steve Angeli. It's a question of where do you stop?
Yeah. 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 Sometimes life just isn't fair. Mm-hmm. And with the system that we've got right now, the G6 is now the minor leagues of the P4. And that's just reality. It's a shitty reality, excuse my language, but it just is a reality that this has become. And like I said, the only way to stop that is to kind of completely split off from each other. And that still won't stop it, because I guarantee you there'll still be teams that go, or kids that go from one to the other. And the other direction too, by the way. That's the other thing. There are plenty of kids that go from D1 down to the G6 level because they're not playing and they want to start. So do the G6s have to compensate the P4s at that point? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
I think that's partially why the playing field got even this year in the SEC.
Right.
Because schools like Alabama can't just hoard talent for years over years, and then they just burst onto the scene out of nowhere as, redshirt juniors.
Right. Like Jaden Thomas is now playing at Miami, Ohio, right? So does
no, sorry, he's at Virginia. Deion Colsey went to
Miami. I'm sorry. It was Colsey that went to Miami, Ohio. So does that mean the Red Hawks are paying Notre Dame? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So, just as an example, Mark, but you're right. That's a great question. I just don't see how it would work. Garrett Medford, assuming you get a full offseason of install. With this roster, what would your base defensive scheme of choice be and why? He gives us the 3-3-5, the 4-2-5, the 3-4, the 4-3. Curious to your opinion.
Depends on the team that I'm playing and coaching against. I would say base probably 4-2-5 just because of this day and age of college football. But, if Notre Dame is lining up against, like a Texas A&M, for example, who's going to be a very run-heavy team, with that offensive line, that backfield, Marcel Reed, I wouldn't be – and a huge offensive line at that. I wouldn't be opposed to getting a third linebacker on the field. They're using him like a 4-3 personnel, but a 4-2-5 alignment, and line up Jaden Ausberry as a rover, similar to what they would do with Drew Tranquill in 2017. I would see something like that. But base 4-2-5 in this day and age of college football, you need your nickel corners to be able to cover slot receivers and tight ends sometimes. And not that Notre Dame's linebackers are incapable of it. But when you're going up against some teams who, Kevin Concepcion is with Texas A&M, odds are a nickel corner is going to be shadowing him. I'd rather a nickel corner do that than Jalen Sneed. And so that's probably, I would go back and forth between the two, but mainly 4-2-5.
Yeah, 4-2-5 for me because it's the most multiple. I mean, it's a great answer, so I'm not going to step all over it. But 4-2-5 is the most multiple right now. And you could drop a backer and have a 3-man front. And there's a million things you can do from a 4-2-5, but with this day and age, it's 4-2-5. DJ, 1 through 10, how hot is Mike Gundy's seat? I say hot like 8. This is tough, man, because he's like a legacy there. You know what I mean? Like, I think he'd have to really screw some stuff up to get fired. I'm going to say like a 5 to 6. I'm not going to say it's super hot. I think he has a lot of collateral there. But that's my outside looking in opinion. What do you think, man?
It's tough. You can't go 4-7. Plain and simple.
Fair.
Last year they go 3-9. And a good enough improvement is not 4-7 like his first year at Oklahoma State. In 2023, they went 10-4. They won in the postseason, and they, I think, competed for the Big 12 championship in 23. And they were favorites to win it in 24, and they didn't even make it to bowl eligible. 3-9 is the worst record that he's had at Oklahoma State, and that came in year 20. It's a rough spot to be in. But with that being said, Oklahoma State isn't a program that year in and year out is expected to compete for a national title. And you go and you look at his postseason record. He's 12-6 in the postseason. He's been at Oklahoma State for 20 years. He's been playing in bowl games for 18 of those years. One of the years he missed was his first year, and then the last year that he missed was this past season. If he stacks another losing season, I think that then your ranking, DJ, of 8, I think would be valid going into 2026. But I think he's going to be given another year of grace. Just to Vince's point, he's been there for so long. He's a former quarterback, all those different things of that school. And so I would say it's like probably a good 4 to 5 right now. He's very much in, hey, you got to turn this program around, or heading into 26, he's going to be having some conversations with admin. Because like I said, it's the expectation at Oklahoma State is to not compete for titles, but you better be competing for the conference championship.
Mm-hmm.
You better be in contention as one of the best teams in your league, especially with how wide open the Big 12 is. So it's just me.
Dig it. Paul Hamilton, are you going to see Superman? I saw it twice, and they capture who Superman is very well.
Well, it's promising to hear, Paul. I'm going to see it tomorrow morning at 11. And so,
he's already got a time and a date.
Yeah, and so I'm very excited for it. I am nervous because I know they introduce a lot of characters, and that's a risky move when it's the flagship movie for the DCU, I will say. But if it's done well, then I'm all on board for it. So I'm cautiously optimistic, but I love Superman. It's also really hard to make a superhero film of somebody that is so known. Like, everybody knows who Superman is. Even if you're not a superhero movie guy, I'm willing to bet that you know that Superman can fly and bullets bounce off of his chest and he has laser vision and he's essentially invincible except for a little green rock. So, like, I think it's tough to start that from scratch again. So I'm cautiously optimistic. But, Paul, if you're right, going to have a lot of fun tomorrow. That's for sure.
I am definitely going to go see it. My 10-year-old really wants to see it. And how can you say no to your 10-year-old son? So, and I'm a big Superman fan. Now, this goes back to the Christopher Reeve Supermans, know, from way back in the day. And, they do predate me just a little bit, but those are the ones I grew up with. And I haven't followed Superman for probably the past 10 years or so. There's been some different iterations of it and, some different skewed storylines and things like that. The way I understand is this one is just a new, adaptation. Starts at the beginning, is his first story, like that whole thing. And they're kind of starting a whole new, chapter, essentially. And so I'm all about that. They said it very much mimics the Christopher Reeve Superman story. Like, that's what I read about it. So I'm actually excited about that. So we'll see. But I'm definitely going to go see it. Hopefully this weekend. My son was already asking me about it today. Wanted to know if we were going to go today. But I'm hanging out with all of you wonderful people today. And tomorrow I have a 2-week-long grass to cut. So probably going to be on Sunday. So there's how that goes.
Good deal.
Yeah. All right, Salty Virginia Peanuts. Who's the best play-by-play and the best color commentator in college football today?
No.
Today? Gosh, I just don't care. Trevor, if you've got one, you go ahead and pipe up.
Play-by-play? I mean, look, man, I love Brad Nessler on CBS. Big fan of his. An underrated one that nobody talks about. I don't dive too much into the I guess the quality of what they say. I just really like his voice. But Joe Tessitore has an awesome broadcasting voice. I remember when I was growing up playing on the PlayStation 2, Fight Night Round 3, and he was the commentator for all the main card fights. And I was like, this guy's voice is pretty cool. Mm-hmm. And then he called the Notre Dame Texas game in 2016, and I was super stoked until the very end because that loss really hurt. But I've really liked Joe Tessitore ever since then. I just like how he sounds when he makes the call. And then best color commentator, I like Greg McElroy. I think he provides some good insight. Outside of that, color commentators are tough because I think they show their bias more than the play-by-play a little bit more. It's very obvious to hear. I like the duo of Brad Nessler and Gary Danielson. I like that duo as a booth. But as far as the best, I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, I'll go along with everything you said. I will say I used to be a Gus Johnson guy. I am not anymore. He has become way too shtick for me. It's too much. It's too much with the nicknames and the yelling and the screaming all the time. It was really good, and he just went over the edge for me. So I am not a Gus Johnson fan anymore.
I get it. I get it.
Brandon Gilbert, can you pick one play from the past that you could make be the last play at the national championship game that wins the game for Notre Dame?
I mean, look, man, if Jeremiah Love wins Notre Dame a national championship on a 98-yard touchdown run, I don't think many people are going to be too upset about that one. I mean, gosh, Jadarian Price's kick return against USC, Jaden Greathouse's spin move on Caleb Downs. I'm just thinking of ones in recent history.
Right.
I mean, Jeff Samardz's game-winning touchdown in 2006 against UCLA. If that was to win a national championship.
That was going to be mine right there.
Tom Zibikowski's punt return in 2005 against USC. A punt return to win a national championship would be electric.
That'd be awesome.
I mean, gosh. Ben Morrison's pick six from 2022 to win a national championship.
How about the back-to-back pick sixes, for against USC, like to win a national championship? Like, how cool would that be?
This is well played.
Yeah, takes all the pressure right out of that one.
That is.
I'll be on the elevator headed to the field if that's the case.
That is very well. I'll be doing laps around my apartment. Like my apartment complex. I'm letting everybody know that Notre Dame has won a national championship.
Uh-huh.
My wife's going to hate it.
There we go, Toonces. Now you're on board.
Bang.
Now you're on board, buddy. Now you're on board. He just has to be perfect next year, and I'll send the resume over. We'll make it happen.
See how composed you are on the post-game show of Dylan. It's a game-winning field goal for.
I will not be on the post-game show.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's a very good
if
point.
My kid wins, first of all, if he's even on the roster and they win a national championship, let alone if he kicks the game winner, you can just forget about it. I will not be. I have actually, the StreamYard app on my phone, which only works like as a guest. So like I will just plug into it and I'll be like, yeah, let's go. That would be me. It would be completely unprofessional and I wouldn't care. That's where I would be. So anyway.
Fair enough.
All right, Salty. Why will Navy be the G5 representative in the playoff this season? I know Brian's big on Navy.
I mean, I like the roster that they bring back. I really do. I mean, you go and you look at, first of all, the experience. If Blake Horvath can stay healthy, that's a good Navy team. I know that Notre Dame beat them last year 51-14, but Blake Horvath was not healthy, not fully healthy. And some of those turnovers were fluky. They were. I mean, Jalen Snead's touchdown he just straight up dropped the ball. Dropped back to pass, and then he went to extend and just dropped the ball because his thumb was just not there. But I like their head coach. I like Brian Newberry. He's a good head coach. Alex Teska comes back. Eli Heidenreich comes back. So it's like the main pieces of their offense. And I mean, look, are they on Notre Dame's level of replace and reload on the offensive line? No, but you know what you're getting from Navy's offensive line. They're going to do their job. They're going to be fundamentally sound. They're going to work and play hard. So, I mean, I like their chances. Group of 5 this year is wide open. It really is. And so,
yeah. It's going to be a fun thing to watch. I mean, to see, where these teams are going throughout the season and kind of following, because it's almost like a parallel race. You know what I mean? Because they're, I don't know that I see a group of 5 team actually being high enough to automatically get in outside of the group of 6, G5, G6, whatever you want to say. Like, I don't know if there's going to be that team that is not going, that is going to get in without that automatic bid. And so it's almost going to be like 2 parallel races. So it's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Corey Hardy, how much money would it take for you to take a bet that if Notre Dame makes the playoffs, you win, but if you lose, you have to cut your hair into a mohawk?
I mean, with the job that I have now, I'll cut my hair into a mohawk right now if you give me money for it. Just put on a hat. I'll wear a hat in the press box. I'll wear a hat at practices. Come on, man. How much money would it take? Okay, how much money would it take for you to
all they have to do is make the playoff, though? I
don't
think it would take that much.
Yeah, I was about to say,
I feel
I would
very
have
good about that.
If I have to cut my hair into a mohawk, that means they don't make the playoffs?
Right.
I mean, yeah, if they don't make the playoffs this season, I'll cut my hair into a mohawk just out of pure sadness. But if they don't make the playoffs, Like, look, man, I'll say this, Corey, not a lot of money.
Mm-mm.
I mean, if I'm very confident Notre Dame makes the playoffs, which means I win money. And like I said, like if this is back when I was like working in sales and had to go in the office and be on client meetings, I'm not cutting my hair and do a mohawk. But I mean, if I can just hop on here in a hat every day, yeah.
Yeah. I do have to go out in public where I cannot wear a hat, which obviously would be at school. And my wife would have a fit, which she would throw a fit. So it would have to be in the at least 4 figures area.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm still very confident in that bet, Corey. So I would, that's how I would frame it to my wife. It's like, look, they're going to do this. We're going to win. And if by chance we don't, I just have to look stupid for like 2 weeks. And that's okay. I can handle that, because it just takes, unfortunately, it just takes like a couple of explanations to people and then they just get it. And then you move on and they know that you look like an idiot and they know why. And eventually your hair grows back. So
it does.
My hair grows really fast, so it'd be fine. And plus, we'd be getting real close to Christmas break at that point. So I'm going to say 4 figures just because I don't want my wife to get mad at me. But if I was not married, it would be like $5. Like, that's where I'm at.
I lost a bet in college on the Notre Dame Georgia 2017 game, and I had to get frosted tips. I did that for free. So money involved? Yeah, I'd do that.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, I'll put a picture of it up on the message boards this weekend.
I have a awesome mental picture of you with frosted tips.
Yeah, it's rough. It's rough. I look like I was in a K-pop band. It was rough, dude. It was rough. Yeah, it was rough.
Oh my gosh, that's fantastic. All right, Muhammad Abdi. Why does Notre Dame struggle to land top D linemen? Do you think it improves like defensive back recruiting? Is it coaching or location disadvantage?
I'll be honest. This is probably a better Brian question. So, understand why you addressed it to him. Why has Notre Dame struggled to land top defensive linemen? Do you think it improves like defensive back? I do think it improves because we're starting to see it.
Yeah, it will improve.
I mean, when you get in one class, Ebenezer Utade, Rodney Dunham, and Tiki Hola in one class, and they're potentially still not done with Elijah Golden's commitment coming at the end of the month on the 26th, he's choosing between, Notre Dame, Bama, and I think Virginia Tech. I mean, when you're in a heated battle like that, but you have the foundation of Ebenezer Utade and Rodney Dunham and Tiki Hola, I think you're already starting to see the improvement. I don't think location has anything to do with it in terms of like the weather, but maybe proximity to home. Who knows? Some of that is fighting the stigma of, top defensive linemen just don't consistently go to Notre Dame. They go to the Georgias, they go to the Tennessees, they go to the Alabamas, they go to the Clemsons, but I think you're already starting to see it improve. I really do.
Agreed. Yeah. I definitely agree with everything that you just said. I think there was an aversion to going after top defensive linemen in the past because of some of the hurdles that you would have to get over. But I think this regime does not see those as hurdles. And so they're going after the top guys and they're starting to land some. And I think that will continue. It's not an overnight thing. It's a progressive thing. And I think Notre Dame is doing a good job with that. All right, Josh, what's more disappointing in your opinion? Never getting Randy Moss to step foot on a Notre Dame field or having Aaron Lynch and losing him after 1 year?
You might be able to speak to the Aaron Lynch one a little bit more just because I wasn't following the team like that then. I obviously remember when he left. For me, it's going to be Aaron Lynch leaving because I think it's always more rough to have an impactful player like that play as a true freshman and then leave versus if somebody never stepped foot on campus. I'm somebody that relatively early in that, I don't want to call it a grieving process, but relatively early in that process, I accept it's like, okay, the team is just not like the team just won't have him this upcoming season. You know what I mean? Versus in 2011, they have Aaron Lynch. You see what he's able to do, flash as a true freshman. And then in 2012, when they made their national title run, they were without him. And so mine would probably go to Aaron Lynch, but I also don't know what all went into losing him. So But for me, that's my answer. What about you, Vince?
This one's tough because you saw who Randy Moss ended up being, and you saw what he could have been at Notre Dame, and it's just like, man. So looking back on it, and it's funny because the 30 for 30 for Randy Moss just came up on my Netflix as like something you should watch. And I put it in the queue because I watched it before and I'm going to watch it again and be disappointed all over again that he didn't end up at Notre Dame. It's Randy Moss for me. Aaron Lynch was a defining player at Notre Dame as a freshman, and then obviously it didn't work out. I would have loved to see Randy Moss at Notre Dame. Like, are you kidding me? And I realized they weren't even throwing the football around like they did at Marshall, but he would have just changed the offense at Notre Dame. He just would have. And I would be here for that. So I'm just glad he didn't end up going to Florida State, and I'm glad he didn't end up going to like Michigan or any of those other places that would have beaten Notre Dame. He was relatively, obviously he was at Marshall, so he was not a player that would hurt Notre Dame. So, good for him. I'm glad he did what he did, but man, it would have been great to see him in a gold helmet.
Yeah, it would have been. Sure would have.
Salty, will Georgia, Texas, Penn State, Clemson, Notre Dame, and SMU all return to the CFP playoffs this season?
No.
I mean, the odds are no, right? I mean, that everybody makes it in?
I am confident in saying that all of them will except for SMU. That's the one that
That's the one I would. Yep.
I'm very confident Notre Dame will. Very confident Clemson will. I'm very confident Penn State will. Very confident Texas will.
Are you very confident Georgia will?
No. I'm not very confident, but I would be surprised.
Fair enough. Because they're going to go like 4-5 deep is the thing in the SEC. And so if you're telling me that Georgia's not going to be in the top 4 of the SEC, that's a hard pill to swallow. So I'm with you on that one.
SMU is in a rough spot because you look at their schedule, and again, like it's definitely not as easy as it was last year because they play some opponents in the regular season that they didn't have to square off with last year. They play on the road against Clemson at Clemson. They play at home against Miami. They play at home against Louisville. They play Syracuse this year. They played Baylor in an out-of-conference game week 2 of the season. So we're not going to have to wait that long to figure out what type of team SMU is going to be, but I don't see them making the playoffs again. I mean, because, look, the ACC is at a disadvantage because I think they're going to just routinely get 2 teams in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Clemson's my first one, and then the second one is kind of a toss-up between – you got Louisville, you got Miami, you got Georgia Tech, you got all those other teams, and I just don't quite know where SMU fits in. So I would be more shocked if Georgia didn't make it than SMU. I guess if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yep.
Here's an interesting one. It's from our guy Salty again.
Uh-oh. What is the biggest lie in college football today?
The biggest lie?
Oh, yeah, that they're student athletes. Like, that's the biggest lie to me. Now, I realize that doesn't necessarily – that's the first thing that comes to my mind. But that – I mean, and again, that doesn't necessarily speak to Notre Dame or a place like Hillsdale or places of that name, Vanderbilt. You can name all of the educational institutions, and obviously that's not true. But overall, they're athlete students. And again – that doesn't mean they're not going to class. It doesn't mean that they're not getting their degrees and all of those things. But they're athlete students, man. Like that just is what it is. They're making their money as an athlete, like literally making money as an athlete, and they're going to school on the side. Like that's just how it is. And the student athlete piece, like a Notre Dame, used to be like this. And I do think it's a little more like this now. I still think it's student athlete, but I also think being an athlete has gained some steam, even at a place like Notre Dame.
I have 2. One, it's the people who are still adamant that big programs weren't paying athletes before NIL was a thing.
Yeah.
Like that's just a straight up lie. Because we now see what the transfer portal is. And we see how many players enter. And it doesn't even have anything to do with production.
Right.
Like teams were paying players. And look, some of it has already came to fruition, but I think that's one of them. And then the other one, big picture, is that, like, a lot of higher ups in college football say that everything that they do is for the fans, yet they continue to limit accessibility and they make the event significantly more and more and more expensive. So it's also not for the fans.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if it was for the fans, then you wouldn't have, games on this streaming service exclusively and games on this streaming service exclusively. I'm not somebody that, like, gets super upset when, like, a high octane game is super expensive. Like, that just kind of makes sense to me. I think of it in terms of, like, concerts or any other event where you have to buy tickets. Like, for example, if Taylor Swift comes to Indianapolis, that concert is going to be more expensive than if, like, U2 came to Indianapolis. That's just kind of how it is. Like, I'm not saying I agree with it, but that's just how ticketed events work. If Notre Dame plays Ohio State at home in primetime, that ticket is going to be more expensive than when they host Pitt on a normal Saturday at 3:30. But it's like the amount of money that it is just killer. But then they say that everything that they're supposed to do is, like, for the fans and they want to give back to the fans. I think that's also a huge, huge lie.
There you go. I like it. Brandon Gilbert, it's Saturday morning and the Notre Dame game starts at noon. What is your go-to cereal and cartoon before kickoff? So we're going back in the day. We're going back to Saturday morning cartoons. Is what we're doing.
Oh gosh. I mean, this is very easy. Bowl of cereal. One, I'm not just having a bowl of cereal. Give me multiple bowls of some CT Crunch. That stuff. Man. Cinnamon Toast Crunch is the goated cereal. It is fantastic.
For me on that one. Cartoon.
I mean, look, I started watching College Game Day at a very young age. And when I lived up in South Bend, like, I would turn on, like, News Center 16 and they were doing the countdown to kickoff stuff and, like, the 7 a.m. like on campus, like, hey, like, cars are starting to line up to tailgate. That's what I watched. And then once that was over with, until Notre Dame would kick off, I would turn on, like, SpongeBob or something. Honestly. So, but more so Cinnamon Toast Crunch for the win.
Cinnamon Toast Crunch is 100%. 100% my cereal of choice. As far as Saturday morning cartoons, I'm watching, let's see what was on. He-Man, Mask, Transformers. Those are kind of my go-to 80s cartoons. If you're going before that, then we're talking like Mr. Rogers and Sesame Street. But, I like SpongeBob and such. That was a little after my time. I was a little too old for SpongeBob, obviously. I was a little too old for X-Men, I do believe. That kind of stuff. So we're talking old school. Like, you can, like, my babysitter that I used to go to had the old VHS where she just recorded, like, TV, like, just all the Hanna-Barbera. You got the Flintstones, you've got the Jetsons, that kind of stuff. Like, I was definitely in that neighborhood as well. So you can throw a little Hanna-Barbera on there, He-Man, Mask, that kind of stuff. That's where I was at. Yep.
Yeah, if I wasn't watching cartoons, especially when I got older, I would just go and watch, like, old highlights of other Notre Dame games until
He's such a dork.
Dude, I do it now.
I'm just messing with you, dude.
I do it now, man. Lauren hates it. Because, like, she's dialed in enough to where, like, she's very excited to watch Notre Dame.
Sure.
And she's ready to go whenever that game is. But now my problem is, especially now with CFB 25 back and, like, the video games are back, I will play a bunch of games as Notre Dame online. And then I'll watch old games to get in the mode. I go all out. I have a game day playlist on Spotify. I got a game day candle. It's like a clover candle, but it smells like grass. Yeah. Yeah. Get that all lit up. We're good to go. Trowbridge household is on lockdown on game
You're not
days,
kidding.
Got
You're not kidding.
Full routine.
Wow. Now, what happens when you got to come up here? The routine is smushed.
Sometimes I'll bring my candle with me if I go to my dad's.
Fair.
But depending on when I have to be up there, like if I go up there on Friday, I got my playlist with me right here.
There you go. That's true. That's a good point.
We're good to go. I just listened to it for 3 hours on my drive up there. Unfortunately, there's only like 18 songs on it, so a 3-hour car ride kind of gets a little repetitive. And then I used to listen to the Irish Breakdown podcast on my way up to South Bend if I were going to a game.
True. Good point.
But as much as I want to listen to myself talk.
Yeah, I don't at all. Not you, me. I don't like listening to myself talk.
I can't.
At all.
I can't. I get it.
Yeah, that's great. Like, as I've gotten older, though, as an adult, my game day routine has changed significantly because most of it is kids' games and practices and just dad life, and then busting over to the stadium if it's a home game, or listening to the game or watching the game if it's an away game, like on my phone while at a soccer game or a cross-country meet, or those kinds of things. You got to multitask when you get older. So you'll be there sooner than later, buddy. You'll see what it's like. And then when you're there, all my kids will be gone and I'll be able to settle into a routine. So
you're going to go back to eating bowls of CT Crunch and watching cartoons in the morning, baby.
It's going to be great. I can't wait.
Let's go. I got a question. And this is for people in the chat. This is for you too. Did you have any, when you were a player, and this is any sport, like if you guys didn't play football, if you were, ran track, played basketball, baseball, softball, volleyball, any of that stuff, did you have like a game day ritual that you would do? Like, were you superstitious at all?
I don't know if I'd call it superstitious, but maybe some people would. When I was in high school, me and 3 other buddies, we used to go to my buddy's grandma's house, and she would cook us like an amazing meal, steak and pasta every Friday night. And we would go there after school, shovel it down, get our protein in, which is probably not great for you right before a game, but we were told it was. And then we would go to the locker room. And those were the days when you had to switch all your pads over from your practice stuff to your game stuff. And so we would get our game stuff. You stand in line, you go get your game stuff. And then we would go up to the cafeteria and stuff our game stuff, like our pants, right? And get everything ready and just kind of like be in the quiet and just, get our stuff ready and then head back down to the locker room. So that was, I don't know if that's, that was always my routine before high school. As an adult, when I was coaching, I would always eat the same lunch every day on game day at school, like, because I was a teacher, right? So I would eat the same lunch. While I was eating my lunch, I would go over the script for that night because I was calling the plays and just be ready to roll. Once school got there, usually it was a movie day on game day because I couldn't focus on anything. So, but yeah, I would always eat the same lunch, and like my colleagues that I would eat with, they're like, oh, it must be a game day. He's got, the same lunch, that kind of a deal. So, so I guess you could call that a bit of a ritual,
Okay.
Yeah. How about you?
I would always have to go home and shower. I don't know why. Like I would wake up and I'd shower in the morning before school, but like before the game, like I would just have to, it felt like a reset almost. You know what I mean? Like if school was a long day or, all that stuff. And I would just go home, and it was kind of like my way of like, okay, like now I'm on to like my next day within the day. It was stupid. I wish I could tell you it helped, but I mean, that's what I would go. That's what I would go and do. And then a group of us would then go and get like a Subway sandwich before every game, home or away. Yeah. And so that's what we do. We got some interesting ones. People put it in the chat.
I'm reading through some of them.
Yeah. Chief Brody, I played college soccer. Yes. I never stepped on any lines until I had my cleats on. I would drink 2 Red Bulls before the game. I would eat an entire hot dog if we lost.
Wow.
Understandable. There we go. USMA 87 before football games. Listen to Another One Bites the Dust pregame. Postgame, we're the champions. Love it. Love it. Irish Gordian Knot. There we go, buddy. That's what I'm talking about. I had the same game day undershirt and didn't wash it for the whole season. That is what I'm talking about.
I did have the same game day undershirt, but I did wash it. So like my middle school team, we won the championship my 8th grade year. And so like they gave us t-shirts and they told us like, wear this under your pads, through high school. And so like the 20 of us that went to my high school, from that team or however many it was, we would always wear that under our pads, for the next 4 years. Those shirts got pretty raggedy. I still have it upstairs. Yeah, that I did do that, but I definitely washed it. Like there was no way that was coming back in the house if it wasn't washed.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah, and I lived a half hour away from home or from school, so I couldn't go home and shower or anything like that. So I always had to find a friend or something like that to kind of hang out at. And so then I would go to a friend's house, actually, game day night, and spend the night and then come back to 8 a.m. practice. So I didn't have to drive all the way home. So there was that too. So
good deal.
Definitely abused my friends during football season. All right, Josh, who, in your opinion, has the best chance based on the current body of work to be the next Nick Saban or close to it? I say Freeman because he's 39. Now, Saban didn't go to LSU and win until 49.
That's tough. I mean, I just don't think you're ever going to see a run. And I get your question, Josh. Sure. I'm not saying that you're saying that you think Marcus Freeman is going to go on and win like 3 out of the next 5 national championships, but more so like the guy that you always have to be fearful of in college football, the coach that that you have to get through to win a national championship. And that's who Nick Saban was. Every single year they knew at some point from the time that he burst onto the scene at Alabama to the time that he retired, teams had to get through Alabama to win a national championship. Michigan went on to win in 2023. Why? Because they beat Alabama, a Nick Saban-led Alabama team, in overtime in the Rose Bowl. Georgia didn't come and step into the limelight until they were able to beat Alabama. You know what I mean? And so, like at Clemson in 2016, rematch of the 2015 national championship, they had to go through Nick Saban to win. Could I see Marcus Freeman stepping up and being that coach? Like, hey, Notre Dame is the program. Marcus Freeman is the coach that you have to get through to win a national championship. I think he's well in that discussion. I do. I'm going to be interested to see what happens with Ryan Day this upcoming season after he kind of got the monkey off of his back and he could kind of quiet some of the conversation around the whole born on third base, said he hit a triple type conversation now that he's won with his players that he recruited. I think he's very well in that conversation. Interested to see how Georgia bounces back, but with his ascension, it's hard to keep Marcus Freeman out of that conversation, man. It really is. What about you, Vince?
Yeah, I just think this is a different world now, and I don't know that anybody – look, if you're going to pick somebody to have the longevity and things like that, yeah, Freeman's a great choice because he started so young. I have no problem with that, and he has built Notre Dame into a place where maybe that's possible, but – it is going to be very tough to have a run like Nick Saban did just because of the way the college football is now, because you're going to have a 16-team playoff starting next year. It means you got to win 4 playoff games every year if you want to win a national championship. That's tough. It's hard, and that wasn't the case. Like when Nick Saban started, I'm pretty sure it was BCS era. So he was having to win 1 game to win a national championship.
That's
true.
What I
mean? So
that's true.
It's just different now. And so I think it's going to be tough to have a run like that. But if you're going to say, okay, who is the guy that is going to have a run, similar like to what there is now, you know what I mean? Like just a sustained success, getting into the playoff all the time, winning a national championship every few years, that kind of a deal, then I think Marcus Freeman's a great answer. But I just think it's going to look different than it did for Nick Saban.
Yeah, absolutely.
Chief Brody, will your road to glory quarterback pick Michigan State, Boston College, or Nebraska? You're a 3-star. This is easy for me. It's Michigan State.
Okay.
It's Michigan State. Reason being, there's a couple of reasons. For whatever reason, and I don't know what it is, I kind of like Michigan State. It might be because my father-in-law went there. And so I hear about Michigan State a lot.
Old Chuck.
I get old Chuck. He's a Spartan. And so maybe that's why I just don't have the disdain for Michigan State that I do for Michigan. I don't like Boston College. And I had a former boss who's a Nebraska fan who I don't dislike. I'm not a fan of. So Michigan State, there it is. I have really weird reasons to not like places. So Michigan State's the answer.
Mine is I don't have that much of an in-depth answer. We're just talking about the game specifically, and I'm going with Michigan State because they're a Nike-branded football team.
Oh, there it is. All right.
I think Boston College is Under Armour and Nebraska's Adidas.
Did Boston College switch to New Balance? Somebody switched to New Balance recently.
Ooh, they might have. I'm not sure.
Which is a different route. That's a different route to take. That's for sure.
Let me look.
Somebody switched to New Balance. Yeah, there it is. Father David.
Okay.
BC is New Balance. So this is an interesting choice.
Well, all the more reason why I'm picking Michigan State. That's interesting. I honestly don't hate that. I've seen some of like the New Balance like basketball shoes. Some players were wearing them in the finals. I didn't hate them.
Okay.
I didn't hate them.
I didn't know they did like jerseys and things like. I honestly didn't know that. So obviously they're branching out or branching. Let's see, it's reaching and breathe. But okay, they're branching out. That's what I wanted to say. Yeah,
there it is.
It's in there somewhere.
I also didn't know that New Balance was a Boston-based company. There you go. That makes sense. That's actually pretty cool.
Yeah. Look, I'm all about thinking outside the box. And if you are, I don't know what their stable of schools are, but if it's just Boston College, then they're going to get, VIP treatment from New Balance. Yeah. And if you're Boston College, they're going to get that from anybody else. So good for you.
Yeah. They're going to get a lot of national attention when they play Notre Dame this year on national television. So
there it is.
That's a cool move.
Salty, who will have a better season? Dabo Swinney at Clemson or Kalen DeBoer at Alabama?
That's a tough one. Because you have two opposing coaches here. Kalen DeBoer is trying to establish himself at Alabama. Dabo Swinney's kind of trying to come back into the limelight.
Mm-hmm.
This is subject to change. Salty, you picked two good coaches here in this conversation. Initially, I'm going to go with Dabo Swinney, but Kalen DeBoer is not going to be far off. Like, it's not like I think Dabo's going to go, 11-1 and make a run at the title, and DeBoer is going to struggle to make the playoffs. Right. Spoiler alert, I have both of these teams in my projected playoff bracket.
Oh, there it is.
But I think just Dabo Swinney has done the best at his tenure at Clemson when he's had great offensive and defensive lines, and he has that this season. Coming back, obviously on their defensive line, they got Peter Woods coming back, TJ Parker's coming back. And then you go and you look at what their offensive line did, wherever these numbers are, which I had. Here they are. You go and you look at what their offensive line is bringing back. 3,898 snaps in 2024 alone, 128 combined career starts. The entire right side of their offensive line from center over all started all 14 games for them last season. Their left tackle, Tristan Lay, he started 12 games for them last season. And then their left guard, Harris Sewell, he only had 3 starts, but he played in 12 games last season. And so they're very experienced down in the trenches. And then you combine that with a very electric receiving core. Cade Klubnik comes back. I don't know. He's not Trevor Lawrence. He's not going to do what Trevor Lawrence did in 2018. But with the supporting cast around them, Clemson can establish some sort of ground game that I think they're going to be a pretty dangerous team and probably going to be my favorites to win the ACC. But then you go look at Kalen DeBoer at Alabama. He brought in his offensive coordinator with him from Washington. Whoever his quarterback is going to be this season is going to be a better fit for his offense and what he wants to run than Jalen Milroe. Their receiving core is fantastic. Jam Miller comes back as their starting running back. I know a lot of people are high on Alabama's defense. I'm not as high on them as some in that I don't have them as having the number one secondary in the country right now. I firmly believe that room is in South Bend. But Alabama still has a spectacular defense coming back. And they had a little bit addition by subtraction with some of the players that ran out of eligibility. Then I love their wide receiver pickup in Isaiah Horton. So these are both close. These are definitely both close, but I think Dabo Swinney edges them out a little bit. What about you, Vince?
My initial gut was Clemson. I just think they've got a little bit more momentum right now, and I think they have an easier conference. But, again, I'm not going to step all over whatever you just said because – not whatever. I'm not going to step over what you just said because I do agree with everything that you said. But my gut was Clemson just because I think they have a little bit of an easier path. But it's negligible, and like you, I reserve the right to change as we move forward. But as of right now, I will say Clemson.
We got a super chat in here from our guy, Drew Rainey.
What up, Drew? Thank you so much for the super chat. Appreciate you very much. 7 of the top 10 teams headed into the next season will have a new quarterback. Why is it that CJ Carr is the only question mark amongst them all? When will that monkey get off of Notre Dame? 7 of the top 10. Wow. Look, the monkey's never going to get off of Notre Dame until they win a national championship. That's my opinion. I mean, they've had good quarterbacks in the past. It's been a while. That's the other problem. And they haven't had a homegrown quarterback since Ian Book. And nobody's going to say that he was elite, at least nationally. He just wasn't. So, does Notre Dame have an elite quarterback? I think the question is still out there. We think he is. We've seen him with our own eyes. A lot of the people that are national media have not. And so I don't even blame them. They can underestimate CJ Carr all they want. That's fine. I have no problem with that. But it's fine. We're good.
I think some of this also comes down to who are your top 10 teams. I think a lot of it is perception. Because I have heard that too. Notre Dame has a new starting quarterback, similar to Ohio State having a new starting quarterback, and similar to, I guess you can consider Arch Manning as a new starting quarterback but
at least he's got stats and he's got a couple starts under his belt,
But a lot of it's perception and some of it's facts.
Sure.
I don't have I seen Julian Sayin throw? Do I pay attention a whole lot to recruiting rankings of other teams? I don't.
Nope.
Got to get better at that, obviously. But look, Ohio State has a track record of producing good quarterback after good quarterback, especially productive quarterback after productive quarterback. Look, there's a worse situation to be in if you're Julian Sayin to be thrown to Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate, Brandon Ennis, and now Max Clare. Whereas Notre Dame, it's a little bit different. There's reasons why schools like Ohio State don't have question marks around who their next starting quarterback is going to be. Or who their next wide receiver is going to be. In the same light that it's not a question about who Notre Dame's next running back is going to be. They just assume that they're going to be good. Why? Perception, because of the track record of that program and what they've done. I'm not saying I agree with it, Drew. I'm just saying that's kind of the rationale, if I had to guess, behind it. The last time Notre Dame went with a homegrown quarterback was 2022. It didn't pan out that well. And so that's probably why. And Notre Dame's just not a school that, really since, Jimmy Clausen in 2009, their quarterback hasn't put up gaudy passing numbers. DeShone Kizer in 2015, he didn't have 30 passing touchdowns. He would have if he would have started all of the games. But, he didn't start the first 2 games. And one of his touchdown passes was on a trick play against Virginia. And so, it's some of that. You always have who's going to replace Justin Fields? Very productive. He had a 50 touchdown season. Enter CJ Stroud. You know what I mean? And so that's partially why, but Drew, it also comes down to who your 7 or who your 10 top 10 teams are, because off the top of my head, Clemson doesn't have a new starter. Penn State doesn't have a new starter. LSU doesn't have a new starter. Texas technically has a new starter, but he started games. Of the 7 of the top 10 teams, whatever they are, CJ Carr or Kenny Minchie are the ones that have the least amount of experience.
Mm-hmm.
If CJ Carr wins a starting job, he has yet to throw a pass at the collegiate level. I know Arch Manning is considered a new starter. He started 2 games. Julian Sayin has thrown multiple passes at the college level. There's just a difference in returning experience.
Look, if it's still Drew, if it's still the case, 4 games in and Notre Dame is doing what we think Notre Dame is going to do, then I'll have an issue with it. You know what I mean? You got to show me something. You got to show me something as the starting quarterback. Look, we've seen a lot from CJ Carr and Kenny Minchie in practice. We've seen a lot from them in a blue gold game. We have not seen it in an actual game. 4 games in, if they're still not getting love, whoever the starting quarterback is, then I will have a major issue with it, and we will have a discussion about it. But until that time, whatever, man. It doesn't bother me. It's fine. And like I said, if Notre Dame wins the national championship, then people aren't going to be saying as much about who Notre Dame wants to start, because they'll have the track record.
Mm-hmm. Depends on the position, like we were talking about before. Look, Notre Dame is not the only team in college football that had to replace a starting right guard. And Charles Jagusah was getting like early NFL draft grades for the 26 draft, and he started 2 games for Notre Dame, neither of them at the position he was slated to start in 2025. Why did they get that benefit of the doubt? Because Notre Dame has produced top-level offensive linemen every single year. And so it's just about track record.
All right, Josh, you have a trade. You have to trade one player from offense and one player from defense from the same position from any other team that will better this Notre Dame team's chance to win a title this year. Who are they? I'm taking Jeremiah Smith from Ohio State, and I only have to give you a receiver, right? I don't have to give you a good receiver. So let's see, who would I? What I found. Oh, sorry. Apparently, Apple Watch wants to get involved in this conversation. I'll go ahead and I will give Ohio State KK Smith, so they can have him. And then I don't know. What do you think defensively?
I mean, you got to trade somebody for Caleb Downs. Probably. Or, I mean, one of the defensive linemen for Peter Woods or, you know what I mean?
Just a stud defensive lineman. I'd be okay with that. And again, I'm not trading a starter away, so I would trade somebody that's down the depth chart a little bit. You know?
All right, well, then let's spice it up a little bit. You have to trade a starter.
Oh, I knew you were going to do that to me. Okay, well, if I'm bringing in Jeremiah Smith, I'll trade away Jordan Faison. I love Jordan Faison. This is nothing against him, but I also want to keep Fields and I want to keep Greathouse. So that's who I would trade away for wide receiver. Because I'm still taking Jeremiah Smith. Like, that's not changing. Defense, I'll let you do defense.
Defense. Just so I can get away from not naming a specific player, I'm going to take Caleb Downs and then replace him with whoever starts alongside of Don Shula.
Cheater.
Loophole, baby.
Cheater. Oh, that's great, though. Double bogey like a champ. Sounds like my golf game. Out of all the NFL legacies that head coach Marcus Freeman has landed, which has been the most impressive?
Like the most impressive that he's landed, or the most like that has performed the most impressive on the field?
Because Bryce Young is the most impressive on the field right now, right?
Yeah. Yeah, on the field, it's Bryce Young. But, I mean, as far as, like, perception and recruitment, it's Caden Finley. You know, changed the trajectory of this wide receiver class. Look, we talked about it a lot when he committed over on the 4th of July. This is the type of recruit that kind of changes the perception of wide receiver recruiting at Notre Dame, somebody that you can build out the rest of the class around. And so the most impressive commit that he's landed is Caden Finley. The most impressive on the field up to this point has been Bryce Young. We see that very, very similarly. All righty. Let's see here. All right, Salty, you got a lot of them in here. We'll get to some of them.
All right. From Salty, which team will make the playoffs higher ranked than others if they also qualify? Michigan, Arizona State, Florida, or Georgia Tech? Are we doing this in order like we did last time, the order of possibility?
Most likely to least likely. I think the least likely for me out of this list, I think, is Michigan.
I like where your head's at.
And as much as it would not pain me to see that come to fruition, in all actuality, I look at this team and I think they have a little bit too many question marks on offense. I am a big believer that I think their quarterback play is going to take a step forward from where it was at last season. But that doesn't mean that they become a playoff team. You go and you look at what their wide receiving core is made up of this year. I'm not a fan. I love the Justice Haynes pickup out of the portal for them at running back. Question marks on who's going to start. My money's on Mikey Keene. Then they're going to kind of wean Bryce Underwood into the starting lineup. But I don't think that makes them 2018 Clemson with what they did with T-Law. You know, and then defensively have some questions there too, questions along their offensive line. So Michigan for me is my least likely. I'll put Arizona State as my most likely. I like their roster coming back. I'm a big fan of Sam Levitt. Jordan Tyson comes back, their electric receiver, who they did not have in the conference championship game or the playoff game against Texas. I understand that they lost Cam Scatterbo, but you go back and you watch the tape of what Sam Levitt did in some of those games. Yes, Cam Scatterbo had the electric plays, but Sam Levitt's kind of what kept that offense afloat, especially without Jordan Tyson. So I'd go Arizona State's my most likely, especially because they're returning Big 12 champs. And then between Florida and Georgia Tech, I think I'm going to go with Georgia Tech. Their schedule is going to be easier than what Florida's is. I have less question marks about Haynes King and Jamal Haynes than I do about DJ Lagway. DJ Lagway's ceiling is higher, but question marks around him, the head coach down at Florida. So in order, I would go from from most likely to least likely. Arizona State, Georgia Tech, Florida, Michigan. What about you?
I don't have much of an argument there, to be honest with you. Again, it comes down to conference that you're in. You know, Arizona State being in the Big 12, which is the Wild West, and Georgia Tech being in the ACC. They've got a chance to make some noise there. You know, Michigan in the Big 10, Florida in the SEC makes it a little bit harder, and I don't see – I just have a hard time seeing Michigan being a player yet. But we'll see. So they would definitely be fourth, and Florida would be third. So, yeah. Like it. I'd Manami, how much of an impact on a player does your dad being a coach have? I thought it a tad funny that he thanked his mom for all the convos him and his dad had together.
Yeah, did you see Braden Robinson's commitment?
No, I didn't.
So in his commitment video, he said that, I want to thank my mom for, putting up with me and my dad, just basically sitting at the dinner table, chopping it up and talking ball every single night.
Okay.
Yeah, look, I think it has a big impact. In his recruitment video, we talked a lot about his football IQ. Yes, he's very fast and he has legit 10.4 track speed. But with that being said, you also have to know what to do with that speed. It's not good enough to just be fast, or Usain Bolt and Noah Lyles would have been wide receivers. You have to understand the game. You have to be a good football player on top of having the tools of an elite receiver. And that's what Braden Robinson brings to the table. His dad's his coach. He's a high football IQ player. He knows how to find holes in the zone. He knows how to utilize his speed to his advantage. He's a playmaker with the ball in his hands. So, yeah, I think it's a big impact. Vince, I mean, you're a former coach. Your son's getting ready to go play at Hillsdale. You have a little bit different of a viewpoint on this than I do. So,
no, it makes a big difference. I mean, he and I, and it doesn't even necessarily have to be. You don't necessarily have to be a coach of that sport. I think just being a coach in general helps. So, for example, after every single soccer game my kid ever played from age 8 on, we had a tradition. He would get in the car, we would break it down, and we would talk about what he did well, what he didn't do well, what his teammates did well, what they didn't do well, what they could do better, etc. That's how we spent our drive home. Whether it was a 15-minute drive to the local field or it was a 2-hour drive home from Indianapolis. We always talked about the games and broke it down like a coach. And I think that helped him out tremendously when it comes to just strategy and, technique and all of those things. And like you said, on the field IQ, it just makes a huge difference. And it is, I think it helps personally. And, it helps him to not just, it helped my kid in particular. I'll talk about my kid. It helped my kid not be as emotional, after a game, because he would calm down, then we would discuss it. And then he would be able to adapt and, whatever, try to repeat what he did or not repeat what he did, whatever the case may be. But I just think it helps kids be more cerebral about the game, to be honest with you. And it helps also, I would interject my thoughts and then he would, either argue with me about it or he would agree with it or whatever. But you could see him use that in the next game. And the same thing with football. Now, obviously he's a kicker and a punter, so it's a little bit different, but then he would see the game from a different perspective on the sideline, offensively and defensively, and kind of report back at practice and stuff like that. And, so it does make a difference, in my opinion, when you have somebody that you can talk to about the game, when it's not just a peer, but somebody who's kind of been there before, someone who understands what you're saying. It just makes a lot of sense. So big time impact for me, for sure.
Yeah.
Irish Gordian not. Let's assume Notre Dame gets the last 2 guys on the board and keeps the whole class till signing day. Where does it rank in Notre Dame classes since the Holtz era?
I mean, it's in the discussion of one of, if not the best, since the Holtz era. We've talked about it a lot in previous shows. Will it have the star power that the 2008 recruiting class had? Does it have a Dane Christ in it? I don't think so. Does it have a Michael Floyd in it? No. Does it have a Kyle Rudolph in it, though? Yes, it does with Ian Premer. But then, I mean, you got Trevor Robinson in that class. Ethan Johnson was in this class. Robert Blanton, Jonas Gray, Deion Walker, Sean Swinar was in this class. Darius Fleming was in this class. 2011 is also in the discussion. You had Aaron Lynch, Stephon Tuitt, Ishaq Williams. You had Troy Nicholas, Everett Golson was in this class. Jarrett Grace was in this class. And so I don't know if it has the star power of some of those other classes, but what it does have in comparison to those other classes is more diversity of talent spread throughout. Like it might not have a Michael Floyd in it, but does it have a player comparable or better than Deion Walker? I think so, and Caden Finley. And then when you add 5 receivers total, you kind of start weighing your options of what's better, what weighs more. But look, if Notre Dame's able to close out this way, they're able to field an offense and defense from just this class. I mean, that's something that I haven't seen Notre Dame do in a recruiting class in a very, very long time. And capable starters at that. You got 6 offensive linemen, you got 2 tight ends, you got 5 wide receivers, you have a quarterback, you have 2 running backs. Right now, you have 3 defensive linemen. If they close out with Elijah Golden, you have 4 defensive linemen. You'll have 2 linebackers. And then if they're able to get Nick Reddish tonight, then they're going to have 5 defensive backs. And so, yeah, I would say it's up in the discussion of top 3, probably not third, if they're able to land the last 2 guys.
All right. I will leave that one to you. All right, Josh. Who was the most dominant Notre Dame player at their position in your Notre Dame viewing history? Manti Te'o.
Yeah.
Was most dominant at their position in the country that year. Jalen Smith was dominant at linebacker. So you'd have a conversation between those 2, in my opinion. Quentin Nelson.
Yeah.
was dominant as a guard.
I mean, Quentin Nelson, Michael Floyd.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that guy was just unguardable.
Right. So, are we putting together a full team? What are we doing here?
I think we're just picking who we think was the most dominant Notre Dame player at their position, basically in our lifetime.
Okay.
And I'll say in our fandom, because I don't want to say in my lifetime, because I'm sure there's would I love to put Justin Tuck in this discussion? I would, but do I remember him playing for Notre Dame? Right. No, I was 7. So I can't confidently say that. Michael Floyd in my lifetime, the most dominant. Yeah. I mean, him or Quentin Nelson. Yeah. Manti's in that discussion, but yeah, I'll go with Michael Floyd. What about you? Who are you going with?
Yeah, Manti is the first one that came to mind. I mean, he was a Heisman Trophy finalist. I mean, Notre Dame hasn't had one of those in a long time. Was because I don't think Quinn was a finalist, was he? Was Quinn a finalist
for the Heisman?
Yeah,
I'm assuming so. I thought he was.
Maybe he was, but regardless, we're still talking 20 years ago. So. I would say those. I would say Manti for me, most dominant in his position.
Quinn was a finalist in 06. It was him, Troy Smith, and Darren McFadden. And Darren McFadden should have won that year. Just saying.
Yeah.
Because it's crazy that Troy Smith won. He had the least impressive stats of the 3 guys.
Of all 3 of them. Yes.
That is crazy. Another one in here from Josh. Josh put some good ones in here today.
More iconic jersey release for you. The 92 Sugar Bowl. Great. The white with the green. Yeah. White with green. Oh, he said it. White with green lettering and numbers, or 05 USC game green jerseys with gold numbers. So I remember both as far as being a fan. for sure, because that 92 Sugar Bowl, I remember watching that game, and I thought the white with the green numbers were freaking awesome. So that was like the first time it felt like in my lifetime that Notre Dame ever kind of skewed away from their norm. So I thought that was pretty dang cool. My favorite green jerseys of all time are the 05 green jerseys. The dark green with the gold numbers. Those are my favorite. They always will be. So I'm going with those. I love those jerseys. Loved them. If that's what we have to choose from between those two, then that's what I'm choosing.
Yeah, I'm doing the same. I'm going with the 05. Like, I love the 92 Sugar Bowl jerseys, but I think it is a little bit different of effect when you get to like watch them come out and like play in them and like really remember it. But no, the 05 USC green jersey game was, those jerseys are nice. I have that jersey.
Do you? Yeah, see, it was classic.
Quinn's number 10 jersey.
Just freaking classic jersey, man. Freaking loved them. So and I love that darker green, and I love the gold, and wasn't hard to read. All of the things with that combination was fantastic. So I also will say this. I love the fact that Notre Dame is experimenting with some different jersey combinations these days. You know, they mix in the white pants. I didn't think I would like the white pants and the blue jerseys, but they look pretty stinking good against Georgia Tech.
Yep.
The all white jerseys have looked good the last couple times that they've done it, especially against USC. So, I mean, I like the fact that they're experimenting a little bit. I don't like the Kelly green jerseys. I just don't like that shade of green. I just don't like them. And I will say this. I like them better with the white pants. I did not like it when it was all green.
Okay.
So I'll say that at least.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'll accept that.
All right. I appreciate it. The white pants make a difference, man. Like,
yeah, it looks good.
White pants is just clean.
It looks good. Hey, maybe they'll do something this year where they'll bring back the 05
you're talking.
Jersey color combination for the USC
game. That would be clutch.
It's 20-year anniversary of the Bush Push.
Let's reverse the curse, man. Let's go.
Wear the same jerseys, and anytime you're on the 1 yard line, now that assisting a runner is legal, just have Kedron Young forklift whoever the starting quarterback is into the end zone every time.
I love it because there's no Shamrock Series game this year, so there's no given as to where they're going to have a different jersey. So could be a green out against the Trojans. I'm here for it.
Love it. Mark Avalone with a non-football question.
I love non-football questions. Is it too much of a cheating hack for competitive eaters to dunk hot dog buns in the water during July 4th Nathan's contest? I don't know if it's cheating because everybody's doing it. Helps it slide down the old gullet a lot easier, obviously. But I mean, I don't know. The whole thing's disgusting, so I don't know what to say.
No, I don't think it's a cheating hack.
You're still eating them. That's all that, you're still throwing them down, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, and plus, like, have you ever tried to eat bread really quickly? I mean, it's impossible.
Yeah.
No, I don't think it's too much of a cheating hack. It's just gross.
Yeah. It's so like, I want everybody to go home and dip a bun in water and eat it. It's disgusting. It's gross.
Yeah, that's
like not to mention the fact you do it 70 times in 10 minutes or whatever the time limit is.
What is a realistic number if we had to set the over-under? What is a realistic number of hot dogs you could reasonably put down in a sitting? Not like hot dog eating contest, but
and buns?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like you go to a cookout.
Yeah.
You know you're going to be there for like 6 hours.
Ooh.
How many hot dogs you putting down? This is for the chat too.
Yeah. I would say if I'm going to be there that long, I'd put the number around 6. I think I'd go 6. Because if you're there for 6 hours, you're talking about 1 an hour. You might have to up it to like 12. I think I could easily do 2 an hour. You know what I mean? So it'd be up there for 6 hours. That's a long time.
Yeah. Yeah. And no like fancy, like no like coney dogs, like no chili dogs.
Just hot dog,
I don't ketchup mustard.
Yeah. Just simple. I eat a lot of my hot dogs. If they're good hot dogs, I just eat them with nothing. Maybe some chopped onion. That's about it.
Okay.
Okay.
No, I get that. Like if I'm on the golf course, like I don't spend the time to put condiments on a hot dog. Like I just grab it and go.
Yes, grab and go. Because you're just asking for trouble with condiments. You know, you go over a bump, especially if I'm driving. You go over a bump, you're going to spill that thing. It's not good.
Yeah, no, I would go. I mean, if I'm there for 6 hours, I'm setting the line at like 13 and a half.
That's a long cookout, by the way.
Yeah.
I don't know that I've ever done a 6-hour cookout.
Yeah, a lot of it, like the cookout kind of ends and people just kind of stay and hang out.
That's
around.
fair.
Like, I don't know if like the actual cookout is.
That's true. So, I mean, and here's the other thing. I do want my hot dog fresh. So that's a thing. Like I want it hot.
Okay.
So I might have to dial it down a little bit, but 2 an hour, I think is good. Like if it was just a normal cookout, like just going over for a couple hours, like that kind of thing, I'd probably put it at like 4. You know what I mean? I can down 4 of them. Yeah.
Reasonable. All right. Back to football.
All right. That was fun though. Salty, which is more likely, Drew Aller winning the Heisman Trophy or Missouri getting 10 wins in the regular season? Well, now I have to look up Missouri's schedule.
Yeah, I'm doing the same thing right now. So Missouri this year, for just so you guys are aware, they start out the season hosting Central Arkansas on Thursday. Missouri plays on Thursday in week 1. And then they host Kansas. Good. Okay. Oh, my goodness. Missouri doesn't have a road game until October 18th.
Against Auburn.
In order. They go Central Arkansas at home, then Kansas, Louisiana, South Carolina, UMass, Alabama, all at home with one bye week in there. Yeah, with one bye week in there. That's interesting.
I see 9 wins here without trying, potentially. So I will take Missouri on this one because I just don't see Drew Aller winning the Heisman Trophy, and I don't know what – I just don't see a world where he wins the Heisman Trophy. So if I can look at the Missouri schedule and see 9-ish wins, then they accidentally get one more, yeah, that's where I'm at.
I think I'm going to go with – and let me be clear – I do not think that this is going to happen.
Oh, you're going with Aller, you son of a
I am going with Aller. Wow. But look, here's why. I think the media needs a quarterback to fall in love with. He's a third-year quarterback, and we've talked before.
They've already fallen in love with him. That's why Penn State is as high as they are.
Well, and look, quarterbacks are naturally going to get a bump the better that their team is. That's just fact. Like Carson Beck entered last season as a Heisman favorite to win because he was playing for Georgia, and they were expected to be good again. Mm-hmm. And I think they started the season ranked as the AP number 1 team. And if Penn State is as good as I think that they will be this year, like let's just say they make another playoff run, they get to the semifinals or quarterfinals, and they're on that track, the Heisman Trophy I think will have already been voted on by that point in time.
I believe so.
And so, like, I think that is more likely than Missouri getting 10 wins. I don't know why I thought it was Missouri getting to the playoffs. Hang on. I thought it was Missouri getting to the playoffs. Hold up.
Like I said, I look at that schedule. I see 9. I could see a world where they hit 9, and then you're only 1 away from 10.
Well, I mean, their road games this year are teams that, like, you just don't know how they're going to be. I couldn't tell you how Auburn's going to be this year. I couldn't tell you how Oklahoma's going to be this year, or even Arkansas in the final week of the regular season. I don't hate this schedule, but I also do not love Missouri's roster. I don't know how much faith I have in Bo Pabula as their starting quarterback. Yeah, I'll go with Missouri. I don't know why I thought it was playoffs. All right. Playoffs. Not 10 wins. Going with Missouri, 10 wins. Then Drew Aller winning the Heisman Trophy. Yeah. Definitely going with that one. It's because I read one of Salty's other questions, and it's about the playoffs.
Which team will make the playoffs? Ole Miss, SMU, Nebraska, Iowa State. Where is he coming up with some of these?
I'm not sure. He's a creative fellow.
He is a creative fellow.
I guess we'll do this in the same order that we did it last time, just most likely to least likely, I suppose.
Okay. Well, Iowa State's in the Big 12.
They are.
There's some hype around Iowa State this year.
I know. I just don't. I don't know how much faith I have in Rocco Becht. Like, he's a good quarterback, but I just don't. Maybe I just have a bad taste in my mouth from them getting decimated in the Big 12 championship game. This one, I think, Salty, of all the ones that you submitted about the potential playoff teams and who will make it, I think this one's the hardest list. I would go most likely to least likely. I'll go Iowa State, SM. Oh, gosh. I don't know where to put Ole Miss.
Okay, I'll let you go, and then I'll go.
Because I like the quarterback they have coming back. I think they have a good receiving core coming back. Brian ranked Ole Miss's receiving core in his top 10 pass-catching units, including the tight end. Nebraska, year 3 under Matt Rule, year 2 of Dylan Raiola. I'm going to go Iowa State, SMU, Ole Miss, Nebraska. SMU made it last year. They have Kevin Jennings coming back. Iowa State's in the Big 12. Like, I'm staying consistent with what I've said about that conference. I'm not the biggest fan of Rocco Becht. I could see it going any which way, though, in the Big 12. I didn't see Iowa State making it to the conference championship game in the first place last season, and they did. They did enough to get there. I'm not as high as Nebraska on some. They are my most show-me team this year. I understand, Dylan Raiola is going into a sophomore season. They made good portal additions. Matt Rule's going into year 3. And historically but I feel like the conversation around Nebraska every year is this is the year that they get back on track and being Nebraska. And then I look at the Big Ten standings at the end of the season and they're 7-6 or 6-7. So that's where I'm at. What about you, Vince?
So I am going to say Ole Miss, number 1. I am going to go with I'm going to go Iowa State, SMU, and then Nebraska. I have Iowa State. There's some hype on them, obviously, this year. They're in the Big 12, which is wide open. Ole Miss, they score points. And if you can score points, you can win. And they were at the very least, they were on the bubble last year. A lot of people thought they should have gotten in the first place. I realize they've got some holes to fill as well, but they still got Lane Kiffin. They're still going to score some points. So I'm still going to go. I'm going to go with Ole Miss. And with the fact that the SEC is going to get more teams than any other conference.
It's fair.
And then, Iowa State's wide open. SMU, they're building something down there. They obviously have a shot at making the playoff this year. And as far as Nebraska is concerned, look, Matt Rule has had success everywhere he's gone, except for Carolina in the NFL. I don't know, man. Like, I'm just not a Dylan Raiola fan. So Sean and I argue about him all the time. Sean is a Raiola fan. I'm not. We'll see what happens. This is a make or break year for Nebraska. That is what I will say.
Yeah.
But they're going to have to show it to me. So that's why I put them last. Archer, if I told you that Notre Dame starts 1-1, who do you think they lose to and why? Yeah.
Let me preface, this has nothing to do with what my season predictions are going to be. I mean that wholeheartedly. But if you told me, like, we fast forward to September, let's say we fast forward to October 18th, the day they play USC, and it's a week before their first bye week, I think they lose to Texas A&M. I don't see them losing to Miami. I have a lot of faith in Marcus Freeman and getting this team ready to go on the road. Where I have question marks is preparing them for the home game. Marcus Freeman's 1-2 in home openers. And unfortunately, the 2 teams he's lost to in those home openers have been MAC schools. But the only team that he's beat in a home opener is the only FCS school they've played in program history, in Tennessee State. And I think that Texas A&M has a better complete roster than what Miami has. I think they have a little bit more experience than what Miami has. Mike Elko's going into year 2. And he'll have a little bit of something coming to South Bend, too. He was Notre Dame's defensive coordinator in 2017. So between the two, I think it's more likely that Notre Dame loses to Texas A&M or Miami than Miami. But that's also tough because they'll be coming off of a bye. So, but Archer, to answer your question, I think I would go A&M. What about you, Vince?
A&M is my answer as well. I have a slightly different reason as to why I trust Elko more than I trust Cristobal, to be honest with you. And I think he will have that A&M team ready. I still think Notre Dame wins both games, but if you tell me that they lose one of them, they're going to be ready for Miami. They're going to be ready for that first game. I always feel like they're ready for the first game, and they were ready for the Ohio State game too. In that first on the road, they just didn't finish it. You know what I mean? So they're going to be ready for Miami. Are they going to be ready for Texas A&M in that home opener? That's the biggest question mark. If there is one, I think they'll still be ready. But if you're telling me that they lose one of them, excuse me, that's the one.
Yep. Agreed. Well, I mean, to your point about Ohio State, like they were in the game. I think that they just didn't have the horses to compete in the fourth quarter.
Right.
I mean, the safeties weren't what they are now. You know what I mean? And you're going up against a receiving core that had Marvin Harrison Jr. and Emeka Egbuka and Julian Fleming. Just didn't have the horses in some of the areas. I don't think that they were just completely outclassed from top to bottom, but in some of the areas where it counted. That, and you were starting a true sophomore quarterback on the road, so that also didn't help.
True. All right, Josh, what's a bigger red flag for you in regards to Joe Rudolph? Leaving Knapp at left tackle or knowing that last year without injury he was not going to replace Charles Jagasaw?
Leaving Knapp at left tackle or knowing that last year without injury he was not going to replace. I mean, I guess I'm confused by the question.
Yeah, I mean, I guess he's saying that if he was gonna leave Charles Jagasaw at left tackle, then Knapp never would have seen the field, and we wouldn't be in this situation that we're in now. Maybe. But I don't know. Listen. It's not necessarily a red flag leaving Knapp at left tackle. The entire staff believes in Knapp at left tackle. And do I think he'd be better inside? Sure. Zach Martin was better inside too. That's why he became a Pro Bowl guard. Can Knapp play left tackle at Notre Dame? Yeah, he can play left tackle at Notre Dame. And right now, my humble opinion, your two best tackle options, and one of them was going to start at right guard, are both injured. So, it is what it is. So, and I'm not going to go into the season trusting a freshman and Will Black just yet. So he's your best option right now. It's not a red flag yet. I'll just say that.
I mean, look, fact of the matter is Anthony Knapp didn't allow a single sack from Georgia Tech till Penn State when he got injured. He improved over last season. As much as people love to or hate to hear it, that's just the facts of the matter. Do I think it's a red flag that Anthony Knapp wasn't going to start over Charles Jagasaw if he was healthy? No, because if he was healthy, Charles Jagasaw would have started. Mm-hmm. It's okay to have both conversations. That if fully healthy, Charles Jagasaw would have started at left tackle for Notre Dame. And then it's also to say that Anthony Knapp did a quality job and improved throughout the season as a true freshman at left tackle, but still has to improve significantly in certain areas. But Anthony Knapp was also Notre Dame's most dominant and consistent run blocker for a lot of the season. Look, Notre Dame with Anthony Knapp as their left tackle went 14-1. And I know a lot goes into that. Riley Leonard's escapability and all this other stuff. But look, Anthony Knapp is not what lost the game for Notre Dame against Northern Illinois. He just isn't. I'm not saying Anthony Knapp is also the reason they beat Texas A&M and Louisville and Army and Navy and IU and Georgia, but he obviously wasn't a deterrent in those wins. They didn't win in spite of him.
Right.
And so, look, I don't think either of it is a red flag. They made a judgment call and put in a true freshman that, helped Notre Dame go on a national title run last year. It's just how the season played out. So, no, I don't think either scenario is a red flag. I don't. Yeah. I could also be misreading your question, Josh. So if you are still in the chat, let me know if I'm interpreting that the wrong way. But that's what I get from that.
Salty, who will have the better season, Hugh Freeze at Auburn or Brent Venables at Oklahoma? This is a good question.
What did Auburn go last year? Do you remember, Vince, off the top of your head? If not,
I don't. I know they weren't very good, and then they won a game they shouldn't have won at the end of the season.
Oklahoma was 6-7. Auburn was 5-7. Both were 2-6 in the SEC. Okay. Salty, this is a good question, man. I think I'm going to go with Brett Venables at Oklahoma because I think he is more in a position than Hugh Freeze is that he has to or he's going to lose his job. Like you can't be 6-7 at Oklahoma and lose in a post-game bowl matchup to Navy. Navy's a quality football team. I said that they might be my G5 bid. They were a good football team last year.
Sure.
Notre Dame beat them 51-14.
Mm-hmm.
Tulane beat them 35-0. If you're Oklahoma, on paper, you should just have better athletes than what Navy has. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And so I'm going to say Brett Venables because I think he's more in a scenario where he has to than Hugh Freeze. I'm not saying Hugh Freeze is like, he can go 3-9 and nobody's going to care. But in comparison to the two, I think Brett Venables will. I like the Mateer pickup. If they're able to stay healthy in the receiving core, because their receiving core last year got absolutely decimated with injuries. But it's a question mark. But then at Auburn, I'm not sure who their quarterback is going to be. I mean, I think it's Jackson Arnold. It's going to be Jackson Arnold or Deuce Knight. They did get Ashton Daniels from Stanford. I'd be shocked if he starts, but they picked up 3 quarterbacks this offseason, 2 in the portal, 1 in recruiting. Cam Coleman comes back. They got Eric Singleton out of the portal, so that's going to be interesting. It's up in the air. I think it'll be close, but I'm going to go with Oklahoma.
I'm going to go with Hugh Freeze just to be different. I don't believe in Brett Venables as a head coach, and he will be back to being a defensive coordinator in 2026. So that's where I'm at. And because I do think if they have an equal season this year, Venables is out, Hugh Freeze is still there. And so I will say Hugh Freeze. Short and simple. Irish Gordian Nut, if Notre Dame started a wrestling program, would you be a fan of the team? Should they cut another sport to start a wrestling program? I've always hated that Notre Dame didn't have one. Well, you can thank Title IX for that one, IGK. Would I be a fan? I'm a fan of all Notre Dame teams. So now, would I go to a wrestling match? I probably would not, unless there was a kid on the team that I knew, and then I would want to go check them out. The problem is, no, I would not cut a sport that Notre Dame already has to bring wrestling in. And if you added wrestling, you got to add a women's sport. So what would that be? I guess that's where I'm at with everything, Trev. I don't know what women's sport you would bring in, whether that would be like field hockey or I don't know. I can't think of a women's sport that I would bring in that they don't already have. But yeah, I mean, that's why wrestling got cut. They got cut because of Title IX.
That's unfortunate. I mean, if they started a wrestling program, I'd be a fan of it. I'm in the same boat as Vince. Like, have I ever watched fencing in my life? No, but you better believe I told people when they won the national championship. So that's where I'm at. But
yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Connor said you'd add women's wrestling. Yeah, if you want to add a women's and a men's program, I'd be all for it. I'd be all for it.
Okay, that's
absolutely
not bad. Yeah, look, man, I'm impartial, I guess I should say. Like, would it affect my day to day? Am I losing sleep that they don't have a wrestling program? No, but would I think it's cool if they did? Yeah, like that's kind of where I'm at on the matter.
Yep. Joe M, not a Notre Dame topic, but I just read how Stetson Bennett didn't graduate from college, even though he was enrolled for 6 years. Do you two have any Van Wilder type stories involving people that you knew? Well, Stetson Bennett was at Georgia, then he was at a junior college, then he was back at Georgia. So you got the whole transferring of credits problem and all of the things about that. I would be surprised if he couldn't get it accomplished in that amount of time just to get a simple bachelor's degree. That's wild to me. Do I have a Van Wilder type story? Yeah, I've got a couple of buddies of mine that went to a state school in Indiana, and they spent some extra time there and walked away with a bachelor's degree. And I want to say it was probably 6 total, but I'm not 100%. I was definitely 5, if not 6. But those are 2 of my best friends right now. so I don't want to throw them under the bus. But they definitely lived out their college experience. Let's just put it that way.
Good deal.
I don't know if you have anything like that, but, you know, it took me 5 years because I went to 3 schools. So there was a lot of transfer of credits and such.
Fair enough.
Tom Frawley, it appears that the Notre Dame president is less than the AD, and admin are giving Freeman all the tools to win a national championship. It also seems academic requirements have become more flexible. Agree or disagree?
I definitely agree that they're giving the Notre Dame football program and Marcus Freeman the tools to win a national championship. Pete Bravacqua has been very, very open about how like they are with a very burning drive to bring Notre Dame home another national championship. So I agree with that. I don't think they're making academic requirements more flexible. I think that just some high school athletes is starting to catch up with the times of where schools are at now. I mean, Vince, correct me if I'm wrong. You're a dean of a high school, but I mean, I feel like academic requirements are starting to at the high school level are starting to be held a little bit more in higher regard than what they maybe used to have.
Yes and no.
The boat there.
What they're doing in Indiana specifically is they are changing the requirements to graduate and giving kids more of a broad way to graduate. So like more interest level type stuff. Okay. They call them different buckets that you can put yourself in. So, I mean, they're giving kids an opportunity to do things that they actually want to do in high school, which is actually a good thing. But they change it, it feels like, every few years. And so it really messes things up because you've got kids in the same school that have different graduating requirements. You know what I mean? So it makes things definitely interesting. But yeah, I mean, look, I don't think Notre Dame is relaxing their requirements. I think the Notre Dame football program is digging a little bit deeper into kids as opposed to just looking at a piece of paper and seeing if they can do it. I think that's what it is to me.
Well, I also think the program is just doing a better job of putting more effort into going and getting those high octane kids. I mean, under a previous regime, they're not putting in the fight to go get Joey O'Brien. They're not putting in the fight to go get Caleb Finley. Because then they would hang their hat on, it probably just isn't a Notre Dame fit. Yes, kids like that. Brian and Sean have said this on multiple commitment shows. These kids have always been out there for Notre Dame.
Yes. Yep.
Now you just have a coaching staff and a recruiting staff that is willing to go out there and get them, put in the fight to go get them. And that is the fruits of those labor. It's not the university itself changing the standard, because what makes Notre Dame so great is because it is a very well-respected academic institution.
Yeah.
And so they're not going to waver that to just give Notre Dame's football program another national championship, but this program is doing a much better job of identifying those types of players.
Yeah, and I think that Notre Dame is also, if they find a kid who's kind of on the fence, they say, look, this is what you have to do in high school, and they either do it, like we have seen some kids do, or they don't, and then Notre Dame just stops recruiting them, and it's understood as to why. We see that a lot when Notre Dame stops recruiting somebody. It's a lot of times it's an academic thing, and Notre Dame will, again, they're getting on these kids early enough, freshman, sophomore year, where you can look at what's on paper, and they still have an opportunity to increase what is there. And Notre Dame will be like, look, you need to do this, 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 and this. And if you do it, we're good. Let's go. Yeah. And if you don't, then we're not going to be able to recruit you. So that's a difference too. Before, they were only getting on kids when they're a junior. At that point, the hay's kind of in the barn. You know what I mean? Like, there's less opportunity to get to a place academically where you can get into Notre Dame. You know what I mean? You get on them as a sophomore or a freshman, you still have some time to make some gains, So I think that's an important piece of this too. When they get on kids earlier, they have a chance to work with them academically and get them. Look, I can tell you right now, Marcus Burton for the basketball team, the basketball program was very specific about what he had to do at Penn High School, where I worked, what he had to do in order to get to Notre Dame. And he worked his butt off to do that. And he did it. And he got to Notre Dame, and the rest is history, right? The same thing with Blake Wesley. He did it. He got into Notre Dame, but then didn't do it at Notre Dame. And that's why he was a one and done. So obviously you have to do it to get in, but you also have to do it while you're there. So I think that's part of it. I think they're getting on kids earlier. And Marcus Freeman said it when he took the job. He's like, look, we're going to go after the best kids, and then we will make them a fit at Notre Dame. We will tell them how to be a fit at Notre Dame. I think that's how that works.
The hay is already in the barn.
You like that?
Love that. I love that. Might be the most Midwest thing I think I've ever heard you say. That's fantastic.
Well, you figure, especially if these kids are going to be early enrollees, if they're a junior, they don't have how many semesters left. You know what I mean? So the hay's in the barn, baby.
They already got a barn full of hay.
That's right. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
All right, Salty, do you expect Penn State to improve, decline, or stay about the same?
I think they're going to stay about the same.
Yep.
I have them as a playoff team. I think they're going to make either the quarter or semifinals and then lose again. And it's not for the talent on the roster. I've been saying it. Look, if this Penn State program had a different head coach, I think I would feel differently about them. And this is coming from somebody who ranked them as my number one team coming out of spring. But that was in spite of their head coach. Again, my post-spring evaluation has nothing to do with championship projections. I think Penn State has one of the best rosters in college football coming back. You combine that with Andy Kotelnicki going into year 2. And they just picked up a defensive coordinator from Ohio State that is fresh off of a national championship. But they don't have a big game head coach in James Franklin. It's his track record. I think they're going to do what they need to in the regular season to be on the cusp or make it back to the Big Ten championship game. Up in the air if they win that or not, because again, big game James Franklin. And then I think they're going to get into the playoff and do similar to what they did this last season. But I expect them to say the same. The one that I'm the most confident in saying that I don't think is going to happen is I don't think they're going to decline. We've seen Notre Dame teams in the past that when you just have enough talent that's willing to overcome some questionable coaching decisions. And there's no doubt about it, whether you like James Franklin or dislike James Franklin, it's a talented Penn State roster.
It is. Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think they're going to be about the same. I mean, look, they made it to the Final Four last year. Like that's good. That's really good. You know, I'm not convinced, again, like you said, that James Franklin's going to be able to win them the big game. And I'm not convinced that Drew Aller is going to be able to win them the big game. But I think they're going to make it into the playoff again, and I think they'll make a little bit of a run. I mean, look, they had a pretty favorable run or a favorable schedule, I guess, in the postseason that allowed them to get to the Final Four. And look, anybody that's not going to say that Penn State Notre Dame game wasn't a good game wasn't paying attention. That was a good game. You know, Notre Dame had to come from behind, and Penn State had every right to win that game too. And so, but they didn't. They didn't make the plays at the end, made some questionable decisions and things of that nature, and Notre Dame took advantage of it, right? So I just think that's going to be their issue again. And look, they're not going to get that kind of a favorable run in the postseason again. I don't see that being the case because they're not going to have the automatic buys again. So I just don't see that being that favorable of a run. Maybe they will. Maybe they'll get lucky.
Good deal. Well, and look, and I'm seeing it a little bit in the chat. It is warranted. Like, yes, they lost a very impressive player on offense and defense. But I've said it before. So did Notre Dame.
Right.
Penn State fans are saying the same thing to Notre Dame fans that Notre Dame fans are saying to Penn State fans. You guys aren't going to be as good because you don't have Tyler Warren and Abdul Carter. Well, yeah, you guys aren't going to be as good because you don't have Riley Leonard or Xavier Watts. It's a conversation goes both ways, and both teams are able to reload. Do I think that the player stepping in for Tyler Warren is going to put up the same numbers? No, I don't. And I'm very comfortable saying that. But do I also think that C.J. Carr or Kenny Minchie, their first year as a starter, are going to be able to put the team on their back the way that Riley Leonard is? No, I don't think that's possible either because they're a first-year starter. Riley Leonard started over like 20 games by the time he got to Notre Dame. It's just a different ballgame when you're at that level. And so, like, I'm super high on Jadon Blair or Luke Talich or Jalen Stroman coming in or Tay Johnson. Do I think they're going to be Xavier Watts? No, I don't. Not this year. Maybe down the road. It's just different. It's just really, really different. All righty. Let's see here.
All right. From Carlos Vince, you and Sean were talking about some big news a week or so ago. Did I miss an announcement? been out of the country for a minute. Well, Carlos, I've been on the other side of the country, and so we did not make an announcement. I do believe that announcement is happening on Monday.
Woo.
So stay tuned. We got some bugs worked out yesterday, so I believe the announcement is coming on Monday. So, we'll see what happens. That's the tentative plan. So stay tuned for that. There's no IB Nation Sports Talk this afternoon. Sean is indisposed, so it couldn't happen today anyway. So stay tuned for Monday. Some major news coming for the IB Nation Sports Talk world. Nothing changes for the afternoon show, the big show. Nothing changes there, but a big change happening for IB Nation Sports Talk. So really excited about it. Should be a lot of fun.
Good deal.
Yeah. All right, Josh, you don't have access to any running back on the current roster this year, but you can pick one from these three: Ryan Grant, Randy Kinder, or Lee Becton. Who would you pick and why? Man.
Vince, this is going to be all you, buddy.
This is tough. This is tough. I mean, obviously I remember all three of these guys, but if I'm being honest with you, I can't really differentiate between the three of them. It was a while back that they were all playing for Notre Dame, and my memory is just Swiss cheese. So I don't really have a pick here. Lee Becton is the one that jumped out at me. I remember him running rough shot as a Notre Dame running back. Obviously, I think Ryan Grant had the best pro career of these three. But I think I'm going to go Lee Becton, and I don't really have a good reason why.
All right.
There it is.
I guess Ryan Grant. I didn't watch any of these three guys play.
I didn't think you did. And this is very early in my watching career. So
I mean, Ryan Grant, I remember him on my fantasy football team when he was with the Green Bay Packers.
Right. He had the best pro career. That I do know.
So I guess based on that alone, I'm going with Ryan Grant. But I know I have heard Brian talk quite a bit about Lee Becton and his dead leg juke.
Yeah.
So maybe I'll put him at second.
There it is.
Lee Becton, number 2.
Done a lot of desk comedy.
Yep, there we go.
Irish Gordian Knot, rank these based on personal preference: spicy, sweet, sour, bitter, umami.
Well, I'm gonna have to look up what umami means.
I am not a spicy guy. I can tell you that right now. I'm not a bitter guy. Those are going to be towards the bottom. What is it? Because I don't know either.
It's often described as like savory, meaty, or brothy taste.
Oh, okay. Then I would go sweet, umami, sour, spicy, bitter. That's where I'm at.
I'll go spicy, umami, sweet, sour, bitter.
Like Matt, plain. I'm right there with you, dude. Like, I don't really put a whole lot of, I'm there.
A whole lot of what?
A whole lot of sauce. Like, I'm not really a sauce guy.
Not a sauce guy?
Yeah, not really. I mean,
not
I don't know.
A sauce guy? Your last name's Dario. You're not a sauce guy?
Well, I'm an Alfredo sauce guy. That's not
okay. Fair enough.
Yeah.
That's fair. That is fair.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like these are like the options that you have to like dip your nuggets in.
I'm not bitter. I don't know if I like anything bitter.
Yeah, I'm not a bitter guy either.
No, I put bitters in old fashions. But I don't like if I'm like cooking, I can't think of the last time I made something bitter.
Yeah, right. Exactly. All right, Josh, I got another one. Rank these linebackers in college 1 through 4. Brian Bosworth, you're going old school there.
Boz.
Jalen Smith, Brian Cushing, and Luke Kuechly. I can tell you right now, Brian Cushing played for USC. He's the last. So he's at the bottom. I would probably put, we're just talking college, right? I would probably put Luke Kuechly at the top of this list. He was incredibly successful in college. So I would put him first. I would put Jalen Smith second. I would put the Boz third, and I would put Cushing fourth.
I'll go in college. I'll go Jalen Smith, Luke Kuechly, Brian Cushing, and then I got to put Brian Bosworth last because legit the only time I watched him play was in The Longest Yard, and that was a movie. Sorry.
There's a really good documentary about Brian Bosworth.
I gotta watch it.
You gotta watch it. He was a stud back in the day, but he had some screws loose, man. And maybe that's part of why I'm going the other direction with him. Yeah. And then he just got absolutely punished playing against oh my God, why is his name escaping my brains? Bo Jackson. He got run over at the goal line against Bo. But that was the pros. That was when I think they were both rookies, maybe. I can't remember all the details. That was before my time. I never saw Brian Bosworth play live. I watched a documentary. That was where I was. So Boz was an interesting dude. That was for sure. So you need to check that one out. That's your homework. You need to check out the Brian Bosworth documentary. I think it's a 30 for 30 off the top of my head. Not positive. But you should check it out for sure.
Okay. He was the only 2-time recipient of the Butkus Award. He was a consensus first-team All-American in 1985 and 1986. He recorded 13 solo tackles against Penn State in the Orange Bowl. Okay.
Yeah.
3-time All-Conference. All right.
Brian and the Boz. That's the name. It's a 30 for 30.
Okay.
You check that out. It'd be worth your time.
All right. I'll check it out. I might have to switch up my answer.
He was legit back in the day.
2-time Butkus Award winner's pretty nuts.
Yeah, no, he was legit back in the day, but he definitely was a wild dude.
Let's see here. Here's an out-of-the-box one from Salty.
There we go. Which sports media personality is behind Brian Driscoll at number 2? Come on now.
Vince D'Addario.
Sports personality. Now, are we talking just on the Notre Dame beat? Are we talking in general?
Probably in general.
Probably in general. You know, I'm a big fan of Scott Van Pelt. I think he's got some good stuff to say generally when it comes to, when it comes to, just commentary about sports and things like that. I was a big Bob Costas fan.
Salty clarified. He said national guys.
Okay.
So.
Sean Stiers. Just reading the chat here. I can't stand Stephen A. Smith. Cannot stand him.
Yeah.
Can you think of anybody? Like, I don't watch many talking heads. Because I get it. I mean, we are talking heads. So, like, I do a lot of the talking already.
It's a generational thing, and I know people aren't going to like it, but I really like Pat McAfee. I do.
He's got some juice to him, man. Like, he can go overboard. Like, he doesn't need to be taking his shirt off and doing crazy crap like that. But I like, his shtick is like he gets fired up with whatever school he's at, starts singing the songs and the chants and all that stuff. He brings the heat, you know what I mean? Like, everybody always gets mad at me when I say it's time for Lee Corso to retire. They've replaced Lee Corso with Pat McAfee. Like, he is the new Lee Corso. You know what I mean? Like, he's probably going to be throwing on the mascot head here next year, but.
Well, it's about media personality. It's not about like who's the best analyst, who gives the most in-depth this. Like, personality-wise, I think it's Pat McAfee, man.
Yeah.
I get it. His shtick is like being a frat guy, but like, what's a better personality to have on college game day at Oklahoma's campus and Tennessee's campus and Georgia's campus and Alabama's campus? I mean, like, with that being said, I understand why people are like over the shtick. I also get that too.
Sure.
And then also a little bias. I live here in Indianapolis. It's cool. Like, he's like the mascot of Indy.
Yeah.
He
throws down for Indy, man. And I respect that part of it. But look, here's the other thing. It's not an act. That's who he is.
Yep.
Like, he was like that when he was a player for the Colts.
Yeah.
Like that. Nothing has changed. He just now has a pulpit.
Yep. Well, I get it. So like I understand. Sometimes I think he stretches a little too thin. I mean, he has his show, and then he'll do like College Game Day. He also is like a commentator on the WWE. It's nuts. Like, he is everywhere.
Yeah. And
He's
he is
absolutely everywhere.
cleaning up.
Absolutely everywhere.
Baths and money. So
last couple here. These are some good ones. Salty,
right.
Take us home, buddy.
Who and what were the principal influences that guided you from playing/coaching football to your current IB positions? I'll let you go first on this one. Yours is more recent.
I mean, principal influences? Who? I mean, my parents always gave me a very good backing of like, follow what you really want to do. I mean, it was a risk going from like a sales job to something that I've just never done before. I've been very open and transparent. I was very open with Brian, and he was fantastic throughout the entire interview process of, he was looking at kind of potential more than what my background was. Cause I'm sure people hit him up that, hey, I was a journalist for this and I did this in college and interned for this. Dude, I came from sales, man. I just know and like to talk about ball, and I've been a Notre Dame fan for quite some time. And so my parents always kind of gave me the backing to like, hey, look, like, follow what you want to do within reason. Like, I mean, at one point I wanted to be like an astronaut, and they're like, okay, well, maybe, I mean, there's some things, but that's one of them. And then in my playing career, I had a quarterback coach, Jeff Miller, your boy. You guys used to work together, didn't you?
It's so weird.
I know.
Jeff and I worked in high school together at Elkona Country Club in Bristol, Indiana. So I've known Jeff since I was a teenager.
But he was a big playing influence for me, and kind of taught me what it meant to play the position that I played. He was my quarterback coach my first 2 years in high school, and he's the one that always instilled in me that quarterbacks get too much of the credit when you win and too much of the blame when you lose, and you have to find a way to live in between. I think there's a lot of things that I've done throughout my life that I kind of follow that kind of mentality on a little bit. Is kind of just live in the gray and keep your head down and work hard and block out as much noise as you can. And then obviously, you have to have a pretty supportive wife when you go from working 7-8 years in sales to working in media. And she's been fantastic along the way. And she's very much is invested in Notre Dame now and Irish Breakdown and how much we grow and all that stuff. So it's been a lot of fun. And then just day in and day out working with Brian, what I mean? I learned something new every single day. And I would not be in this spot without Brian taking a chance and allowing me to have the platform that I do and learning all the different stuff that I am. So that's kind of I'll get off my soapbox, but yeah, handful, and Vince for just being cool. I would never have gone to a Hillsdale golf scramble if it was not for Vince there.
That's what I'm talking about. It's first of many. My story is obviously a lot different than Trev's because I still have a full-time job and then work this one kind of on the side. But I didn't go to school for media. I went to school to be an educator. And when I graduated from college, there was like a little period where I didn't work. Well, I mean, I didn't work in education. And I met Sean Stiers, in the summer of 2004. Okay. And if anybody remembers, and I'll try to make this as quick as possible. But if anybody remembers back in the early 2000s, they had a show on ESPN called The Dream Job. And it was like a game show that these young guys were on, and the winner of the show got to be on ESPN, essentially. I think they were on ESPN News and whatever. It became like a talking head on that. And so they had a local one. And Sean was working at the radio station at U93, and they had a local Dream Job Challenge. I signed up for it because I had literally nothing to do from graduation until I got married in August of 2000, in the summer of 2004. So I signed up for this Dream Job Challenge for fun. And the winner got to be the co-host of the Notre Dame pregame show on U93. And U93 used to carry Notre Dame football on the radio. Well, long story short, Sean was running it, and I won the competition. And I got to be Sean's co-host on the pregame show. And literally, I didn't get paid. I got paid with press box tickets. Did the shows every Saturday with Sean on campus, like on a stage right outside the gate. It was a blast. Had so much fun. And then that's how my friendship with Sean started. And then he had his own daily talk show. And since I wasn't doing anything, I would be on his show and all of these different things. And that's how I got into media. It became like my glorified hobby. Of course, then I became a teacher and a coach and the whole thing. But I stayed doing this on the side all the way through. Well, then I met Brian when he was at Irish Sports Daily. And, you get to know the people on the beat and that kind of stuff. And Sean and Brian worked together at ISD. And that's how I got to know Brian. And then Brian left to go coach. And then he came back to Blue and Gold. And then he got me to come to Blue and Gold. So I was with him for like half a season. And then he left to go to Irish Breakdown and start his own company. And in the background, I was always like, dude, as soon as the season's over, I'm coming. And so we were planning on working together from that point forward. So we became really good friends, obviously, before that. And then we did Irish Breakdown together. And so we started. I say we started it together. It's his business. It's his business. He started it solo. And as soon as the season was over, I came over and we pretty much started it from scratch. So I take a lot of pride in that, that Brian brought me over and our friendship brought us together. And that's how I got to Irish Breakdown. So there it is. But yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, that's it. It's a wild story. It really is. It's a wild story. So I've worked for radio stations and, internet publications and all kinds of different things, but I've covered Notre Dame football since 2004. So there it is. Wow. There's the long story. And Chief, I see your question over there. We are about an hour and 45 minutes away still from here. So,
yep. And then to answer another question in the chat, John Kristovic, first of all, I appreciate you. I still cannot be an astronaut. Not a chance. So thank you for that. But Jason Smith.
That's great.
So, yes, I left. I worked at Aerotech, their staffing company, light industrial staffing, and I was one of their account managers. So I go to local warehouses, sit down with HR managers, directors of operations, operation managers, owners, depending on the size of the business, and get them to come through us for staffing. I left there, and then I went to ADP, the payroll company, and I sold basically in their like HCM division. So I was selling like a full technology suite of, basically we'll come in and we'll give you a platform to use payroll functions and provide health benefits and running evaluations for companies and all that. And then I just kind of got I had a, guess you call it an epiphany moment. And I was just sitting at my desk one day and I was like, man, this is just going to be it. I'm either going to be in sales or I'm going to be, I'm going to be managing people who are doing the sales. And I had that kind of moment where I was like, okay, well, time to make a judgment call. And I was already working with Irish Breakdown as kind of like a contract writer. And Brian put me on a couple of shows and our chemistry was good. And then I got on with shows with, you and Sean Davis and Ryan when he was still doing some post-game shows, and it went well. And then after some conversation, came on here full-time in October.
Yeah, because you were part-time for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. I was live. I was live for the Texas A&M show the day before I got married.
That's right. I remember that.
So, yep. And then my first Saturday of marriage, they lost to Northern Illinois. So
it's your fault.
It is. It is my fault. It's not my wife's fault. I've learned that lesson already.
Nope.
It's me.
Never.
I gotta find a better way to get the boys ready to show up. But yep. It was a cool leap of faith, but I've met some awesome people along the way. It's been a lot of fun, man.
Yeah.
It's been crazy. Like it's weird to think that at this time last year I was still selling. So
yeah, that's true.
But man, it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, you know what? Media is a blast. I mean, it can have some weird, funky hours. It can have some hard work. Obviously, when I was working for another site and we had to do the magazine, up until 3 or 4 in the morning and of a night game, trying to write stories that were going to be published like literally the next day. That was too like when Brian left to start Irish Breakdown, all of his work as a full-time person got dumped onto me as a part-time person. So I was getting hammered. I was getting absolutely hammered. So I couldn't wait to come over to Brian and Irish Breakdown. And I made good money at that other place. That's the other piece of it is I made really good money with them, but I was miserable. Like it was such hard work. I wasn't getting any sleep. And Brian's like, well, you can come over with me and I will pay you nothing. How about that? Does that sound good? And I was like, let's do it. So definitely took a leap of faith, like you said, like huge leap of faith. Now, luckily, I still have my full-time job. I was still a teacher at the time, and it's not like I was putting my family in jeopardy. But at the same time, it was a leap of faith because I've always I'm a teacher, right? Or a teacher contract. I have always had a part-time job, always, ever since I started, and sometimes multiple, coaching, working at Notre Dame in the summer times. I was working at Home Depot. I was working at Bonefish Grill, like you name it. I had a part-time job, and so that was going to hurt my money. And so I believe I was still working at Home Depot at the time when I first started with Brian, I think. But then I was able to quit that and just do this, which is big time. So yeah, I mean, like I said, everybody's path is different, but at the same time, I love it, man. I love hanging out with everybody in the chat and everybody that works for Irish Breakdown. Just made some lifelong friends, which is key. So like I said, I've known Sean since 2004, back when we both, neither one of us had gray hair. So that was a long time ago. And Jesse was 8 when I met him. So
wow,
that was a long time ago.
Wow.
Yep.
What a journey.
Yeah, man. You're not kidding.
What a journey. Well, all right. Last question to bring us home for today.
All right. From Salty, will Trevor and Vince host the Reddish commitment? The answer to that is if he comes to Notre Dame, if he commits to Notre Dame, then there will be a show, and Brian is unavailable. So the answer to that question, of course, is yes. It will be us. I believe Sean Davis will stop by, but we'll all be sitting on pins and needles waiting for that announcement. I believe the announcement comes at 5:30. And so if it is a Notre Dame swing, then we'll show up right after that. If not, then we will see you on Monday. That's how this works. So that's why you got to hit that notification bell, Trevor. That's why everybody needs to hit that notification bell so you know if there's going to be a show or not. Also, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, that notification bell, share with your family and friends. And of course, jump on the boards at irishbreakdown.com. If you're on the boards, maybe you know which way the Reddish commitment is going to go. Maybe you don't. I don't know. So that's where you're going to get all your intel. That's for sure. And then, of course, irishbreakdown.com fits all of your needs as far as, written material and all that fun stuff. And then I would be remiss if I didn't tell people to jump over to the CFB Nation side of things. Give us a follow over there for some more broad college football topics that are discussed over there. So you definitely want to do that as well. And then give us a 5-star review, comment, all of those things over on wherever you get your podcast. I cover it all, Trevor. All right. Well, that's going to do it for us on a Friday Free-For-All Mailbag Day. So for Trevor, I'm Vince, and we will talk to you next time on the Irish Breakdown Podcast. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. Maybe we'll see you later today. Maybe we won't. We'll have to see. I don't know.